We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. If everyone would take their seats. Quiet down? Yeah, I like that. Someone's helping me in the back of the room. Quiet down, please. May I have the clerk call the roll?
Vice Mayor Baxter. Here. Commissioner Flores. Mayor Marino. Here. Thank you. Mayor Marino. Here. Commissioner Powell.
Here.
Commissioner Sachs. Here. Commissioner Weiss.
Here.
Commissioner Woodward. Here. Thank you.
Thank you. And I've asked Commissioner Sachs to do the prayer and the pledge.
Prayer for our firefighters. Gracious God, let's pray for our firefighters. Let your grace be a protective shield, guarding them from harm and keeping them close to your love and compassion. May we always remember that they are the ones who face the dangers firsthand. Help us honor them for their courage and care for them when there is damage to their bodies or spirit. Let them always know that we are behind them. Let them feel, O God, deep in their hearts that your love is always there boundlessly, unconditionally, and eternally. Amen.
Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless.
Thank you. Do we have any additions, deletions, or substitutions?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Commissioners, Vice Mayor. Just if you refer to your add delete sheet on page 68, item 3AA4, just a couple of Scrivener items that we needed to include in this POMTRAN item on the resolution that you see both in the adoption under B and the summary. On page 80, on item 5E1, this is the Transportation Master Plan. This is being deleted. We had one other document that was required to be part of that. It won't be available until later in the week, so we're moving that to the 6/18 zoning meeting next week, so I apologize for that, but I think we're going to be in really good shape moving that forward. One other item I just want to call to your attention, and that is on 4B1, just in the backup, some of the initial backup that was posted referred to an older advertisement related to the 6 cents tax from last week. That is updated and the new is online, so I just wanted to call that to your attention, but not necessarily something that needs to be part of add, delete, or substitutions. And that is it, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. May I get a motion to adopt the agenda? Second. Thank you. The consent agenda is on page 11 through 13. Anyone want to pull anything from consent?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. May I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
All in favor? All opposed? See that motion carries 7-0. Okay, we are moving on to public hearings, pages 74 through 76. May I get a motion to receive and file proof of publication?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do you need me to identify who did that? Commissioner Weiss? Okay. All in favor? All opposed? See that motion carries 7-0. We are now on to 4A1, FinFrock. Do we have a presentation? Yes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Sure. Oh, Commissioner Weiss has a question.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yesterday when I was reviewing this document or this item, one of the things I noticed in there was the annualized average wage that's documented in there. My understanding is they actually offer a substantially higher wage than what's in this document. Is there a way to address that so it doesn't appear that we're supporting a lower wage?
Good morning, Commissioner Jonathan Brown, Housing Economic Development. So contractually is what we have listed in the agenda item. What we have provided or made part of the PowerPoint is what the actuals are. So contractually, they were looking at $38,000 and a median of 33. The average salary is actually $54,545 with the median over $43,000.
Right. So, I mean, are you saying then that because this is the language in the contract, that's what's in here as opposed to what they're actually doing? And
Yes, sir, but we can always make that a part of the agenda item, but contractually is what we listed and showing that they have met the contractual terms as the county has requested.
all right, well, I think it's good that they're substantially higher, and I'm sure the folks that are working for them really appreciate having a living wage to be able to support their families. So, thank you. All right, go ahead.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? See that motion carries 7-0. We are now on to item 4B1, engineering. All good?
Yes.
Okay.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the Board of County Commissioners. With me is Deputy County Administrator Patrick Rutter, County Attorney's Office Liz Herman. The purpose of this agenda item is to go through a potential road of alignment for a development order that is for the Indian Trust Grove. So in the motion title, there's two road networks that we're requesting for consideration. Alternate one for 60th Street North from Turner Trail North to Seminole Pratt Whitney Road, and alignment alternate one for 190th Street North from 60th Street North to Hammond. And so the purpose of this road network is that there was a development order 2019 for the Indian Trails Grove. So part of that process, they had to submit for the engineer's approval consideration a road network to provide the mobility within that unit. So here's a map of the planned unit development for Indian Trails Grove, and you can see 190th Street North, the vertical north-south, and then 60th Street east-west on that. And then, sorry. Then the next one is the alignment for 60th Street alignment. On the east side, Seminole Pratt Whitney Road. On the west side, Turner Trail North. That is the west side of that alignment. And then for 190th, it makes one connection at Hamlin Boulevard, the other connection on the west side near the M Canal. So we have conditions, part of the development order, they're still in process. Prior to issuing a first building permit, they need to start looking at the actual development of this road network and for a condition for this development. And then condition number 7, in terms of any major construction, they need to do the connection at Hammond Boulevard, and this construction could occur all the paving and drainage for the site. All costs would be paid by the property owner. And the last, submit a acceptable alignment for 60th Street North and to Seminole Pratt Whitney Road, and then from 190th to 60th. And so part of this is really a concept layout. The detailed designs will be forthcoming if they decide to pursue this whole major planning unit development. And once we get into design, we'll definitely be having conversations with the affected neighbors and also Indian Trails Grove. And that is it.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Mayor, just wanted to add one thing for the record. In your backup, as it relates to this, a public hearing, The notice we included in the backup identified incorrectly. It identified the 6-cent sales tax. I want to be clear, the public notice was performed properly, and what you include, we amended your backup. The public notice was done appropriately. We've got the documentation that it was. We just included the wrong piece in the backup, but it all was done properly.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'd like to make the motion to approve item 4B1A and B.
Okay, and we do have a card.
Elizabeth Accomando.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you for bringing this item forward. I would like to start saying that absolutely we support the alignment of 60th and the correction of a very dangerous bridge. There have been many accidents at this location and some lives lost, which is not acceptable. So, of course, we support that. Unfortunately, we weren't notified of even this meeting today had it not been for Mr. Portnoy contacting Indian Trail. I understand this is the first step of several that we're going to have to go through, but I implore you to please include Indian Trail Improvement District in this. The residents of Tall Pines have concerns about the 190th alignment, so I want to make sure that their concerns are, thoughtfully addressed, and we have the least amount of impact to those residents. So thank you so much for your thoughtful consideration on that. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other cards? Okay. Close the public hearing. We have a motion and a second. Any other questions?
Yep.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. I wanted to address something. So I had heard from residents regarding this alignment, and I discussed with staff recently, Mr. Rutter and Mr. Ricks, about the buffering and what is going on. If you would please elaborate on what we're trying to do to help make this better for the residents.
The proposal has to submit a alignment using a 100-foot right-of-way. But during the design process, there's opportunities to do buffering, some other things, and drainage issues. And so right now, this is just only just a concept, but as we get into proposed designs or concerns, we'll definitely try to meet all those needs for those residents.
We're trying to make this as least impactful on them as
Yes, ma'am.
possible.
And I was just going to add, that this is a function of applicant seeking to approve their big master plan. The roadway alignment, how it may look, how it will comport with those specific sections within the development proper, all that'll be taken into account, yes.
And I hope that we are staying in touch with Indian Trails Improvement District and especially Supervisor Accomando as this proceeds forward so that everyone is well aware of what's going on and can be well informed.
Understand the point, yes, they will.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor? All opposed? See that that motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much. We are now on to 4C1, and this is the issuance of a primary provider certificate of public convenience and necessity, also known as COPCN, for a pilot program services for the town of Jupiter. And I see staff coming to do a presentation, and that would be great. Thank you. Not here. All right, who's going first?
Good morning.
Morning.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, and Administrator Von Laren. Stephanie Shanahaw, Director of Public Safety. With me today is, to my left, Sharon Burrows, Assistant County Attorney. To my right, Mary Blakeney, Director of Emergency Management, and Richard Ellis, Deputy Director for Emergency Management. The item before you today is requesting approval to issue a primary provider certificate of public convenience and necessity to the town of Jupiter for a pilot program. So back in February, we did do a presentation on secondary COPCNs providing background. I can go over that again as far as our authority and the responsibilities, if you...
Yes, please.
Okay, great. So the agenda before you today basically goes over types of COPCNs, the endorsements, EMS and administrator responsibilities associated with COPCNs, and then it'll go into the summary report for the Town of Jupiter application. So for a little bit of background, pursuant to Florida statutes, Chapter 401, in order for the state to license an applicant to provide emergency medical services, an applicant must obtain a COPCN from the county in which the applicant will operate. A COPCN is a certificate deeming it to be in the public convenience and necessity for an EMS provider to operate within the confines of a county as authorized in Florida statute section 401.25. A COPCN is required in Palm Beach County to provide pre-hospital or interfacility advanced life support services or basic life support transportation services. And Palm Beach County's Emergency Medical Services Ordinance provides standards for issuing COPCNs in accordance with state guidelines. So there are 3 types of COPCNs here in Palm Beach County. A primary COPCN provides advanced life support, which may include ALS and BLS transports, and we currently have 11 primary provider COPCN holders here in Palm Beach County. Examples of those are our municipal and our county fire department. A secondary COPCN provides secondary ALS transport services and ALS and BLS interfacility transport services. Examples of those are AMR, Elite, National Health Transport, All County Ambulance, eCare, HCA Palms West, and the Healthcare District. And then a special secondary provides ALS non-transport services within the community until the primary service COPCN holder arrives. And these are ALS non-transport services for private communities. So the primary service provider's COPCN application timeline is as follows. COPCNs for primaries are issued every 6 years for a 6-year term. The applications for COPCNs are accepted only during the time specified in the public notice, except that a COPCN for a pilot program service, which is what the town of Jupiter is applying for today, may be approved as provided in section 13-24 of the ordinance. The current primary provider COPCNs expire on December 31st of 2028. So as defined in our Palm Beach County Code EMS ordinance, pilot program services means a municipal or Palm Beach County Fire Rescue Trial Program. Pilot program services are initiated by special conditions, opportunities, or events such that, in the discretion of the board, warrant the issuance, extension, and/or modification of a COPCN or its endorsements on a temporary basis. Palm Beach County Code Chapter 13 states government entities having a public mandate to provide EMS within their jurisdiction may be granted a COPCN by the board, and if approved, may serve such jurisdiction as the primary provider. Any government entity requesting a COPCN must comply with the requirements outlined in the EMS ordinance. So as part of the EMS ordinance, as the administrator that was delegated to me by the former county administrator, my responsibilities are to review the application and obtain verification that all applicants meet requirements of federal, state, and local laws. I have to confirm there's no outstanding complaints against any of the applicant. Consider the need for the proposed service. I'm to prepare and present a report with recommendation for the EMS Council's review. I'm to request the EMS Council's recommendation on the application to be provided to the Board of County Commissioners today. And then I'm to schedule a public hearing, which is what we are here today to do. So the Emergency Medical Services Council was created in 1973 by the BCC and provides recommendations for improving emergency medical services in Palm Beach County. It consists of the following members outlined in this slide, which is 20. And as of today, all seats are currently filled. So the EMS Council's responsibilities are to review the report that I provided to them of the application. The applicant may provide a presentation to the EMS Council, which they did a few months ago, and the council members can ask questions after the applicant report is presented, and then a motion will be made by a council member and seconded by another to recommend to the BCC to approve or deny the applicant. So at the Board of County Commissioners meeting today, the administrator will publish a notice, which I've done 10 days prior to today. The applicant is encouraged to attend the BCC meeting and allow 3 minutes to speak if a public comment card is completed. And the administrator will provide a report to the BCC, the recommendation of the EMS Council, and any other relevant documentation. And then the BCC will either approve or deny the application for the pilot program provider COPCN. So now we're going to go into the Town of Jupiter application and provide a summary report. So the Town of Jupiter, as mentioned earlier, did apply for a primary provider COPCN pilot program, Currently, the primary provider COPCN holder for the Town of Jupiter is through an interlocal agreement and is issued to Palm Beach County Fire Rescue, which expires, their current COPCN expires on December 31st of 2028. Based on the 2024 census data, the Town of Jupiter has a population of approximately 62,000 people, covering 21.1 square miles, with a total of 30,000 housing units. The Town of Jupiter Council voted to establish their own EMS and fire rescue service and cancel their interlocal agreement with Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. The Town of Jupiter provided Palm Beach County Fire Rescue with written notice of termination of their interlocal agreement effective midnight on September 30th of 2026. The Town of Jupiter applied for a primary pilot program, COPCN, for the period August 1st of 2026 through December 31st of 2028 with an advanced life support endorsement, advanced life support transport service, and routinely transport basic life support. This slide shows the total number of calls from Palm Beach County Fire Rescue's annual report from FY 2020 to FY 2024 for the Town of Jupiter, of which 73% were EMS related for FY 2024. The pilot program COPCN application requested 19 different elements of information, 11 of those being requirements pursuant to the EMS ordinance as highlighted in blue. This slide provides a summary report of the areas of the requirements within the application. As you can move along from the left to the right, you will find the required application elements in numerical order. The check mark indicates compliance, while the asterisk indicates that the Town of Jupiter is working towards meeting this requirement. Numbers 11, 12, and 13 were marked and not applicable because the Town of Jupiter has not commenced its EMS services yet, and those elements require EMS activity to produce the data. This slide provides more details on the 11 pieces of information requested that the Town of Jupiter complied with. I'm not going to go into those details unless you need me to.
No.
This chart provides an overview of the anticipated staffing, equipment, rate structure, and average response times for the Town of Jupiter. The staffing for the Town of Jupiter, they intend to hire and train sufficient personnel. As of May 25th or 21st, they finished hiring the rest of the command staff, the training chief and fire marshal, and the main staff will come on board May of 2026. The equipment, they have committed to 4 ambulances, 1 ladder truck, 3 fire engines, 1 squad fire engine, and an advanced life support non-transport supervisor unit. As of May 21st, Jupiter will have all trucks by the end of 2025. They informed us that they'll have all their trucks by the end of 2025, being fully equipped by January and February of 2026. Based on our review of the application, the Town of Jupiter met all pilot program application requirements pursuant to the EMS ordinance. Also, the consideration of the need for the proposed service included notice of the termination of their interlocal agreement with Palm Beach County Fire Rescue that's effective midnight of September 30th of 2026. The EMS Council heard the EMS Program Administrator's report and a presentation from the Town of Jupiter, and they voted 16 yes, 0 no to recommend the Town of Jupiter for approval of a primary services provider pilot program COPCN to the Town of Jupiter for the period of October 1st, 2026 through December 31st of 2028. Based on the Town of Jupiter meeting application requirements and the consideration of need for the proposed service, my recommendation, which is consistent with the EMS Council, is to approve the issuance of a pilot program primary provider COPCN to the Town of Jupiter for the period October 1st, 2026 through December 31st of 2028. It's important to note that the town of Jupiter requested a start date of August 1st, 2026 for their pilot program COPCN. However, due to the existing interlocal agreement with the town of Jupiter and Palm Beach County Fire Rescue, which remains in effect through midnight on September 30th of 2026, Palm Beach County is obligated as the current primary COPCN holder to continue responding to all emergency medical calls in the town pursuant to section 13-25 of the EMS ordinance. To ensure compliance with the EMS ordinance and avoid any overlap or confusion in service responsibility, staff recommends that the Palm Beach County Fire Rescue remain the primary provider through September 30th of 2026. Accordingly, the town of Jupiter would begin its pilot program primary provider COPCN on October 1st of 2026. This recommendation is consistent with a previous pilot program COPCN. For example, the town of Highland Beach was granted a primary pilot program COPCN beginning at midnight on the date of their EMS contract ending with the city of Delray Beach. And then lastly, it's just important to clarify that issuing a primary provider COPCN pilot program to the town of Jupiter starting August 1st would conflict with the current primary provider's obligations under the EMS ordinance. However, under the provisions of section 13-24 of the EMS ordinance, the board retains the discretion to authorize pilot program COPCNs for new or innovative services and may establish conditions or restrictions as appropriate for the town of Jupiter's implementation as long as it does not interfere with the existing primary provider's obligations. That concludes my presentation, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Chief Kennedy, can you come up, please? Can you give us a history as to why we're here today?
Sure. So my recommendation is to approve this. First off, good morning. My name is Patrick Kennedy. I'm Fire Chief of Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Administrator Von Laren, thank you for this opportunity. So we are here because of Jupiter's intent to start their fire department on October 1st, 2026. I do believe the recommendation before the council and then also public safety, it should be consistent with October 1st because that is what our current interlocal agreement, that's when it terminates as of for Palm Beach County Fire Rescue on September 30th of that year, 2026, so at midnight. I think there's a lot that has been said. However, I do believe that flip of the switch occurred on August 15th of 2023 when this decision was made. Palm Beach County has always been a backstop and can be a backstop through mutual aid agreements and otherwise helping out as we always do with our partners when it considers our countywide training and everything that we do to support others. We will continue to do that and we have no intentions to stop that. So for me, I would say approve this based on October 1st, 2026.
And was there originally a 10-year contract negotiated with Town of Jupiter?
Yes, ma'am. There's been a lot of information in the media that said the cost was going to double, and our estimation with the contract that was signed, not negotiations, with the contract that was signed, it is not double.
And when did the Town of Jupiter inform you that because they did sign an agreement for 10 years, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did they inform you that they wanted to take the out clause on that agreement for only 3 years?
I believe it was August 15th, and it came before the board about a month prior on July 11th, if I'm not mistaken.
So they signed the contract on August 14th, and then August 15th, they took the out clause?
July 11th, it came before this board, and August 15th, they canceled the contract.
Okay. I've always said that I don't care who delivers the service to Jupiter. Let me rephrase that. It is important that no matter who delivers the service to Jupiter, that it be the best service they can have. Whether it's delivered by Jupiter Fire when they start October 1st, or whether it's delivered by Palm Beach County. For the constituents and for all the folks that live in Jupiter, the most important thing is that they have the best fire service possible. And today we're being tasked with October 1st, but there's also been a discussion about doing that early. Can you tell me a little bit about what would happen if we entered into an agreement a little bit earlier?
Sure. I think it's been mentioned that the clear lines of delineation of Palm Beach County Fire Rescue being the primary provider for the safety of the public, the safety of their responders, the clear lines of authority, the efficient use of resources. My recommendation is we do not have that overlap of co-response. I believe after speaking with public safety that the pilot speaks to some gray areas that may allow for other alternative responses, but I do not think that that is what is best for the men and women that are serving or the residents that we're serving. I do believe that Jupiter can prepare their firefighters through mock drills just as much as we do through our training. We have 12 weeks of training that we put our recruits through. We have a year of probation. We have 2 years of, or 2 weeks of paramedic training. There's a lot of work that goes into becoming a Palm Beach County Fire Rescue firefighter. And if they're starting sometime in that May period, they have plenty of time to train their employees.
And would it be possible October 1st for a period of maybe 2 months for our folks to train with them at their facility on their equipment so that their team is really practicing on their own equipment and in their own facilities? They can learn what the best practices are, see whatever might have not been planned on. Would that be a better alternative?
There are options for alternatives. Okay. I would like to see what this looks like. We have scheduled a meeting. I sent a calendar invite sometime in April of 2025 this year for us to meet on January 15th of 2026. There are alternatives, and I would like to see what their fire department looks like, what their training level looks like, because remember, we do have constituents and customers that we need to provide service to throughout the county here.
Correct. And actually, Stephanie, I think you can address this better. When Highland Beach went out on its own, how did that process? You said it went smoothly?
Yeah, so as far as what we're aware of, as far as response goes, there's been no hiccups. They did have several meetings before in discussion with the city of Delray, but as far as the response piece, that didn't happen until after the contract ended.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Sachs, your light is on.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you for having Chief Kennedy come on up. Chief Kennedy, have you already scheduled a meeting to meet with the Jupiter heads in January to continue negotiations?
Yes, ma'am. We've also had several meetings prior to that. We have met with them several times, and I must say, at one point we met with them, there was a 2-page document. The next time we met with them, it was a 6-page document. When we met with their leadership, they said that we would have time to be able to review it and have input. And literally the next day I was notified that it was going to be before their council, and then it came before you in an email somewhere around May 22nd. So there's been plenty of meetings. We're going to have more meetings. I would like to continue to negotiate with them, not under these circumstances.
However, regardless of what happens today, you're going to continue. You have a scheduled appointment to continue these negotiations
on
with
January
the Jupiter,
15th. Yes,
right?
ma'am.
Okay,
Yes,
very
ma'am.
good. Glad to hear that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Vice Mayor Baxter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good morning, Chief.
Good morning.
How are you?
How are you?
So it was mentioned by the mayor potentially training at Jupiter's facilities once they open, once everything gets going. Taking into consideration that our fire rescue, and I've said this a lot, I think we have the best fire rescue department in the country. So
Thank you, ma'am.
thank you for leading that. I want to know, do you think it would be best for them to try to train on facilities and equipment that they would be unfamiliar with, or things they would be more familiar with?
Make sure I understand that correctly. So they are certainly going to be buying their own equipment. I've seen some of the brands and some of the differences. I think what we may be speaking of is interoperability, and I think we're always going to have that interoperability. Coming from a small department that only had probably about 26 employees at the town of Lantana that consolidated in 1996, I know what that looks like. To be alone, to not really have the resources, and the backstop was the county. Fortunately, we came into the county in 1997. I only had about 8 months on, and now I see the difference. So at the end of the day, I think there's always going to be an opportunity for that interoperability, and I think that's one of the things that we're going to discuss in January.
But do you think we would be better equipped, try to rephrase this?
Yes, ma'am.
To train another department potentially, because again, the end goal here is always the residents, right? The best service, the best, what is best for the residents? Here we are, nothing's changing, this is in motion. How can we now best serve what is upcoming in this transition and the training? So what do you think rephrasing this another way, what do you think the best training would be?
I think they have a lot of training to do, and it would be very difficult knowing the resources that we have to go train other fire departments throughout the county, regardless of their situations. We have some that may be browning out stations or trucks or reducing their staffing level throughout the county, and for us to take on those responsibilities would be something that I would have to come before you and say, hey, this is going to take away from the constituents. So I believe that there's ways. We have instructors throughout the county that work through other agencies, Palm Beach State, some other private colleges, that they can get that training from our instructors if they wanted it, if they were willing to do it. But in terms of training Jupiter, I would say that that is their responsibility. Interoperability, training with them, we can do that once they have established their fire department.
So it's your opinion we shouldn't help train them at all?
I'm not saying that, ma'am. What I'm saying is to train them as a first day firefighter. We have 100 firefighters we're going to be hiring next year. They have 100 firefighters they're going to be hiring next year. That would be a lot to ask of the county to say, hey, listen, we want you to train our 100 and their 100 at the same time. So I think that we can train together. I just don't think we should be fully responsible for training them.
I don't think anyone has suggested fully responsible. And again, my concern here are the residents. So I want to make sure that they are best served by whomever is answering that call.
Yes, ma'am.
So again, so you don't think there's any room for any sort of training, whether it's 2 people, 20 people, 5 people, no room for training. We don't have the resources to do that.
Train with them, yes, ma'am. We can train with them, and that's what we do with other agencies, and that's what we will intend to do. I just want to speak to this because to say that nobody has mentioned training, that actually in their document that they have presented to us, that's one of the things that they are asking for. They are asking for us to train them. And at this point, my answer is we will train with them. We cannot train them.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Chief Kennedy. And
Thank you,
thanks
ma'am.
for taking my numerous calls on this because I think it was a lot of information for us to process, especially in regards to the training the Vice Mayor was mentioning because it was brought up in meetings that I had as well. And as I understand it, because there's a number of cities who have fire departments, and you conduct training on I don't want to say mass casualty, but major operation events. If something were to happen and multiple fire departments would be called to the same scene, you do those types of trainings several times a year?
So we do. We just had a radiation drill that just occurred, and actually the town of Jupiter was present. So we have opportunities where countywide training can happen, and resources from other departments, whether they're able to pay for overtime or backfill some of those units, sometimes they're not resourced to be able to do that. But the opportunity is there at our grounds, and we have one coming up that I believe is going to be in City of Green Acres that much of my team is going to help host and work with other members of the county to be able to put that on. So there's always opportunities for them to train.
Because I think, and I had a similar concern as far as if multiple fire stations are called to the same scene.
Sure.
And you explained to me that there's, I don't want to call it basic firefighting, but there's a certain level of training that goes into a firefighter on a truck, operations, just basic, that there's that level.
Yes,
but
ma'am.
then what you're providing with these other trainings is once you have the firefighters at that basic level and a call were to go out where multiple jurisdictions get called to the same scene, you train on like what's the procedure if the radiation, whatever type of event were to happen, And right now, Jupiter can participate in those. Any city in the county can participate in those.
As a matter of fact, they have. At least a representative from their department was there. So, and I think really what I would coin that as is interoperability. Are we able to work with one another? And we do that seamlessly. We, as you saw during the tornadoes, we went up to St. Lucie to work with them. So we're going to continue to do that. That's not changing anything.
Okay, so, and just because I did want to make sure that the town of Jupiter's firefighters are properly trained, but I do understand you're saying there's their responsibility to get a basic level of training for their firefighters, and then when it comes to the interoperability that your training provides with other municipalities, because it may not be us, it could be Gardens or, another closer fire department that's going to be hitting the same scene. Or in my case, Boca and Del Rey, they need to know how to work together. So it depends, but you provide those. And if there's a request that goes out from a municipality or the town of Jupiter that, hey, we would like some more of this, they would go to you and you would help organize that, even if we don't have to operate it like they're doing in Green Acres right now, right?
So let me make sure I clarify this. So in terms of countywide training, that would be something we would do with everybody. Mm-hmm. There are specific trainings that we do through our ISO requirements where we have to make sure that we have training through different agreements that we have. So the county does not provide all of this. Sometimes it comes through the Fire Chiefs Association. There's other opportunities where these come up and it's a collective group to be able to train with one another. So I think there's two parts to this. Do they have an ability to train on countywide level? The answer is yes. Does Palm Beach County Fire Rescue and Jupiter have a need to be able to make sure that there's interoperability between the two? The answer is yes.
Okay. And to be clear, we are not saying that we won't participate in group training, but it's not the basic, and I don't know if that's not the correct word, but the entry-level firefighter training that they're responsible for whoever they hire getting them to that level or hiring them they already have that training. But that's on every fire department that operates in this county. They have to do that themselves.
Yes, ma'am. So you have an all-hazards fire department. They train, they do things that I just never imagined throughout my career, what we're doing right now because of the resources that this board provides. We are, I would say, well-equipped, well-trained, and we provide services that most just cannot. And with that, I think there is what we would call a basic level of understanding, and then there's also how do you work with those other all-hazards agencies that might be called through mutual aid or whatnot. And that's where we're going to be committed to working with them.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have some cards? Yes. Oh, sorry.
We have Jim Kretzky and Melise Sundstrom.
Mayor, how are you?
Good morning.
This is Mayor Jim Koretsky, Town of Jupiter.
Palm Beach County currently dispatches all calls for fire rescue services within the town of Jupiter and the surrounding areas. So the earlier COPCN start date, merely in my perspective, provides Palm Beach County Fire Rescue with the ability to begin transitioning services to JFRD where it's deemed mutually beneficial to do so. Every public safety professional must realize that it is not in the public's best interest to ever just transition something like fire rescue service providers on a flip of the switch. If a hurricane were to hit the county next year in August, September, wouldn't there be a public safety benefit to be able to make use of Town of Jupiter firefighters and paramedics to better serve the general public? The effective start date for the COPCN is up to you, county commissioners. Our Jupiter Fire Rescue Department will be fully prepared and ready to begin fire rescue services throughout our town beginning on October 1, regardless of what decision you make today. The underdevelopment fiscal year 26 budget is the third and final annual budget for Palm Beach County Services to Jupiter, since the town notified the county of our intent to create our own department. And every elected official should know that it is their responsibility to intergovernmentally coordinate to deliver services collectively at the lowest cost possible to the public, including transition of the service providers. I do. I just want to assure this county commission, whatever you do today, this decision is even not about training. I think the training has been taken quite a bit out of context. It's about whether or not an opportunity could be provided to take advantage of that if it was deemed mutually beneficial to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Sundstrom, how are you?
Good morning, County Commission. It's wonderful to be here today and to see you all again. This is my first time speaking here, and I want to take the opportunity to thank you. Thank you for your leadership, and thank you for your dedication to public safety throughout the entire county. I know now we're focusing on the north, but yes, my name is Melissa Sundstrom, and I'm with the Town Council, Jupiter Town Council. And I just want to say that Jupiter is preparing to stand up and operate its fire rescue department like many of its neighbors. And we plan to provide high-quality, locally managed fire rescue services October 2026. Looking to the future, I want to thank your staff and the EMS Advisory Council for the recommendations to issue Jupiter's Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity, and respectfully ask that you approve the COPCN that will authorize our department to provide advanced life support, transport, and fire rescue services within our town's limits. This step reinforces a shared commitment to public safety across northern Palm Beach County and allows Jupiter Fire Rescue to contribute meaningfully to the safety and resilience of our region. Thank you again for your time and service, and on behalf of the council, our residents, and the many who have supported this transition, we respectfully ask your support to take this next important step. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Kennedy, can you come back up for a second? Sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
The fire stations that we have now currently that service the unincorporated areas of Jupiter, also Jupiter and some of the other municipalities in that area, will the staffing change on any of those firehouses?
So are we speaking directly about the ones that are serving the town of Jupiter right now? Okay. So what I have promised our staff and what I have had many conversations with members of this board is that we will stay status quo for that first year. Again, two things that I've been a 30-year firefighter, and I lived 20 years of my career oblivious to knowing how safe I was, to know how I was able to go home to my family. And what I do worry about is resources that may not be there. I do not know what's going to be there in Jupiter. I know what the consultant put forward. I did not agree with it that day. I still don't agree with it. So for us to keep the firefighters safe, I'm committed to having those resources there the first year to see what we need to do and then monitor the call volumes, and then we can rebalance if need be. But they will stay in the region, yes, ma'am. Now, there's one station that's vacating, and that may be one of the things that we're referring to is Station 16. We are by warranty deed moving out of that station, and that is just because we don't provide service to that area according to the agreement that was already put in place somewhere in the late 90s.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Jeff Newsom and Craig Mowry.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, and Administrator Von Laren. Thanks for having me this morning. I appreciate the opportunity to address you. I'm going to try to read off my script so I don't blow off my time here. My name is Jeff Newsom. I'm a proud resident of Palm Beach County since around 1980. I'm also the president of Professional Firefighters and Paramedics of Palm Beach County Local 2928. We represent the men and women of Tequesta, Riviera Beach, North Palm Beach, Green Acres, and Palm Beach County Fire Rescues. I was hired in by PBCFR in March of 1995. I've spent my entire professional career dealing with this issue in Jupiter. They've been threatening to pull away from the county system since I was in the recruit academy in 1995. So this is nothing new for us. I'm here to speak against the early issuance of the COPCN for Jupiter Fire. My reason is purely for public safety. If it's your goal to ensure the people of Jupiter receive the highest level of service, then you should let Palm Beach County Fire Rescue continue to be the primary provider of that service until the last possible moment. Over the last 40 years, we've built a fire department that offers unmatched all hazards response, from fire suppression to advanced medical care to specialty rescue teams. We operate our 50 stations with expert precision. That's what comes with experience. Make no mistake, the Jupiter Council is not a good neighbor. For 40 years, the council has resisted contributing to a system designed to deliver equal services across this county. They've lived in a vacuum where no consideration was made to the bigger picture. I once heard a Jupiter council member ask a Wellington council member, "Why are you okay with paying a little more for fire rescue than it may actually cost your city?" I'll never forget his answer. His answer was rapidly fired back, and he said, "Because Palm Beach County Fire Rescue provides the best service possible, and we believe that in this county, everyone deserves that service, even if they can't afford it on their own." That's what good government sounds like. That's what a good neighbor looks like. Unfortunately, Jupiter hasn't acted in that spirit. When their stations are emptied out during a major call, it's the rest of the county taxpayers from places like Royal Palm Beach, Loxahatchee, Westlake, West Delray, West Boynton, Lake Worth Beach, and Wellington who send the resources to cover them. Now they want more. Now Jupiter wants Palm Beach County taxpayers to subsidize the launch of their Jupiter Fire Rescue Department. They single-handedly drafted an agreement that mandates that PBCFR train their staff, write their dispatch protocols, and help them stand up their system on our dime. This is not a regional investment. It's a bailout. Whether their consultant made a mistake or purposefully painted an incomplete picture to sway their residents, the burden of their missteps should not fall on the county taxpayers at large. Again, let's be clear. Jupiter residents never voted for this. The council made a decision unilaterally, even going to court, to block their residents from the opportunity to vote on a charter amendment change. This wasn't about safety, it was about power. And now it's about wanting more. If Jupiter had acted like a good neighbor over the last 4 decades, maybe this would be a different conversation, but they haven't. In closing, I'm asking that you follow the unanimous recommendation provided by the EMS Advisory Council and provide the COPN starting on October 1st, 2026, and follow the advice of your fire chief. Thank you.
You're going to announce it again.
We had Craig Mowry. We also have Daryl Devato, and lastly, Seth Cohen. We have 2 microphones, too.
Morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Craig Mowry. I live at 230 Block Isles Lane in Jupiter. As a resident of Jupiter, I urge you to approve the agenda item before you for the COPCN for Jupiter Fire Department with an effective date of August 1st. That effective date is critical because it allows for a transition of public safety services between the town and the county. Additionally, I urge you to have your staff place on your agenda for your next meeting the approval of the interlocal agreement for the transition of fire protection and emergency medical services to the town of Jupiter. This ILA outlines a transition plan between JFRD and Palm Beach County Fire Rescue and ensures that the Jupiter community will have a safe transition of critical public safety services. In addition, part of the outlined transition plan includes collaborative, mutual, and automatic aid agreements that must be established between JFRD and PBCFR to allow the agencies to provide support to each other in critical incidents. Here's a scenario for you to consider. Very recently, we had a shooter at Abacoa who fired several shots at golfers. Suppose that shooting had taken place in Jonathan's Landing, which is surrounded by the town of Jupiter but not incorporated in it. And suppose the shooter actually hit his targets. And suppose that happened on Labor Day of 2026. You would have 2 fully operational and staffed EMS units at the 2 new Jupiter fire stations who could not respond to assist PBCFR unless the COPCN effective date is earlier than October 1st. The Palm Beach County EMS Advisory Council did not approve the effective date of August 1st, 2026, in part because there was no transition plan yet. The ILA resolves that concern. The safety of the residents and the businesses of Jupiter and North County areas relies on a seamless transition of public safety services. As a resident and a constituent of both Jupiter and the county, I urge you to do the right thing for all of our citizens and approve the COPCN effective August 1st and approve the ILA for the transition plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Chief Kennedy, would you mind coming back forward, please? I heard Mr. Newsom state that the best thing for residents, and you have stated now, waiting as long as possible to issue the COPCN to October 1, it would be best for the residents. What would happen if it was issued sooner? What would be the effect of that?
So I briefly mentioned that before. Let me, so the co-response, it's something that I do not believe, and I would have to refer to public safety, but a co-response in terms of 2 units going to the scene at the same time for the same call, for the same purpose, without the delineated lines of who's responsible for what, I cannot agree to. And I believe that is what was put in that document that is being referred to as a plan. But let's be very clear, there's terms in there. And there's actually in section 7 of that agreement, a 14-page agreement, it basically says that it could supersede other negotiations and other documents, which you have 2 documents that you have in place. You have the interlocal agreement that is our main agreement to provide service, and then we have our dispatch agreement that's in place. And there's conflicting start dates in there. We've already agreed to those. So for the simple purposes of keeping the lines clear of who's doing what and where, and I think that's very important. Being a chief officer in the field, it's very important to know when people are getting off the truck in the midst of chaos that everybody knows what they're doing. So I do not think that this is safe for the public. I do not think this is good for Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. I don't think it's fair to the men and women in the streets.
Do you think that if 2 different agencies were to show up, that it would be bad for the resident?
In that form and fashion that they're referring to, yes. We have mutual aid and automatic aid that says, hey, listen, you have an engine that's available, you have a rescue that's available, let's respond. That happens every day. But that's not what we're referring to here. This is same call.
I guess I need more clarification. So what are we referring to? What happens if it is issued early and then, let's say, whatever?
2 trucks go to the same call, and 2 trucks go to the same call, trying to get there as fast as they can, going for the same purpose. And this is a little bit different because at the end of the day, if I have an engine, and let's say the town next door, Jones Fire Department has another unit that I need resources, we can go and we can work together. This is not that. This is a form of training. This is a form of familiarization. And in their own words, I do not agree with that.
Okay, so let's fast forward. Let's say we issue it October 1.
Mm-hmm.
What's different between August 1 and October 1? On October 1, there's only 1 truck going?
Well, this is going to be their fire department, their area that they're responding to. We are going to negotiate, I fully believe we're going to negotiate a mutual aid agreement that will say, hey, listen, if we're not available, then you go. And that's where the interoperability goes in. But it's different than Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. You have the responsibility. We know now it's their responsibility. Jupiter will have that responsibility as of October 1, and we will go in support.
So it's about who's responsible at that given time?
Yes, ma'am. That's the clearest way that I can say it. We have 2 agreements in place already, and from what I'm looking at in that document that was proposed on May 22nd, it's changing those agreements, and I do not believe or recommend we should be changing those agreements. They're in place. I believe we should keep them in place.
I don't disagree, Chief. It's just, I think, because I'm not the professional and why I ask you the questions,
No,
common
understand.
sense dictates more firefighters, the better. But I get what you're saying. If 2 are showing up without clear delineation of who's doing what, I can kind of see that, but I just don't see the difference between, I guess, August 1 and October 1, you're saying liability. And I get it,
An efficient
liability.
use of resources, yes, ma'am.
Efficient use of resources. I just don't see how that changes October 1.
I think the way that this is, at least in context, in terms of this is a training opportunity for Jupiter as well, right? I don't want to gloss over that. But the reality is we train all of our people ourselves. We make sure that they're trained. I believe they have just as much ample opportunity, especially knowing that they're starting in May with a full staff of 100 or whatever that looks like for their department. I believe they have the ability to train their people and be ready on day 1. They've stated that over and over again. They're going to be as good as Palm Beach County on day 1. I certainly would like that to happen.
Thank you, Chief.
Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. Interesting discussion. You just said something, though, that I think I need clarification on.
Yes, ma'am.
If we were to do what is being requested and move this to August 1st, from August 1st to October 1st, every single 911 call that would be requiring fire rescue would send Palm Beach County Fire Rescue and Jupiter Fire Rescue to the same scene.
That's correct.
Even if that could be potentially, some of your calls are for an elderly person who fell and they need that type of help. It's not needing necessarily a lot of services, but because of this agreement, every single call would require both Jupiter and Palm Beach County Fire Rescue for a 2-month period to go to every single 911 call in that area.
It's a co-response, and I'll refer to Stephanie because she may understand this just a little bit.
Thank you. So as part of the COPCN, they're responsible for responding to all 911 calls in that area. So if the service area for the town of Jupiter is the entire town and the stations that they're responsible for, then when the 911 call comes in, that would be a co-response, because then that dispatcher is going to have to determine, who am I calling? Am I calling County Fire Rescue or am I calling the town of Jupiter? And I think that could delay the response. So it would be a co-response if they were to have the same conditions on their COPCN as a primary pilot program.
And so for this 2-month period, we would retain ours. Ours doesn't expire, or it's going to expire September 30th as the primary COPCN. But to have a 2-month overlap, we would have to duplicate, right? So, just so I understand this.
Unless the board put conditions on that COPCN to where, I just think from a response level, when the 911 call comes in, they know exactly who to call. They know exactly who to dispatch.
So we would be requiring
two agencies. Logistically, it would be a challenge.
So it would be requiring the dispatcher who answers the 911 call to be able to determine that and eating up. Even if this only takes a few minutes, depending on what the call is, I think sorry, it took me a little while to completely understand this, but I do think I understand. It doesn't make sense to have two doing this at all. If it warrants backup, that's a different story, right?
And
if it's a call that would require multiple trucks.
October 1st, yes, ma'am.
And even before, though, if it required multiple trucks, we would send multiple trucks. Like if it happens
Throughout the
tomorrow.
county, yes. They just wouldn't be responding as an agency until October 1st. But
as the primary.
Prior to that,
yes.
we send units all over. They're moving up all day long just to make sure that we have the safety and coverage that we need to.
Okay. I got to tour the dispatch center and listen into some of that, and I would not think that we would want our dispatchers also having to manage who to send or how many are I completely understand now. Thank you.
Thank you.
October 1st is what I would be supporting.
Commissioner Sachs? Yep.
Hold on, Chief. Thanks, Mayor. It's my understanding, that if it's a very serious call, that the county responds. If it's a, baseball player, a kid that, has a broken wrist or something, then the county doesn't need to send all our trucks out. But that this is taken care of. And we're only talking about a 2-month period, right?
We have dispatch protocols that are in place, and that's one of the things that Town of Jupiter will have to develop and establish on their own, is where do those units come from and how? And what does that look like? Some have a higher level of response than others throughout the county, but yes, we have 3 people on every rescue, and we have 4-person engines and standalone stations. That's something that's been brought before the board. Our level of staffing is where it needs to be.
One last question for you, Kennedy, and we have these issues with other cities that want to establish their own local fire departments, or is this something that's a bit unusual?
This is the first that I can recall in this reverse. Generally speaking, they would be coming into the county. And as I mentioned before, I worked at Lantana for about 8 months and we came into the county. So this is in the reverse.
Thank you. I think Commissioner Weiss has a question. You'll wait? Okay, I think we have 2 more cards. Chief Donato, welcome. Nice to see you. It's been a whole 24 hours.
Yes, it has. Good morning, Mayor Marino, fellow commissioners. Daryl Donato, the fire chief with Jupiter Fire Rescue. I really appreciate this opportunity to speak to you today and for your consideration of Jupiter's request for a pilot program, COPCN. So on October 1st of 2026, the town of Jupiter will assume full responsibility for fire and emergency medical services within the town. The town's fully prepared, and on day one, we will set the benchmark for excellence. Today, we come before you and request your approval of our Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity. What Jupiter is doing, creating its own fire rescue department, is not unique in Palm Beach County. Tequesta did the same thing a number of years ago, and most recently, Highland Beach formed its own fire department. The town of Jupiter submitted its application for a pilot program, COPCN, to your Department of Public Safety in December of 2024. The Palm Beach County EMS Administrator reviewed the application and found that Jupiter meets the requirements of all applicable federal, state, and local laws for a primary provider COPCN. In March of 2025, the Director of the Palm Beach County Department of Public Safety recommended to the Palm Beach County EMS Advisory Council that it approve the award of a primary provider COPCN to Jupiter. And that same month, the Palm Beach County EMS Advisory Council unanimously voted to approve a primary provider pilot program, COPCN, for the town of Jupiter. For your consideration today, you have before you the Palm Beach County EMS Administrator's recommendation that Jupiter be granted a primary provider COPCN. The town has requested an August 1st start date for the COPCN purely to allow for a mutually agreeable transition plan. We feel that some formal transition of services is the best approach to public safety as opposed to a change of service by the flip of a switch at midnight. Much has been said today about training. I think I want to make sure that I convey my understanding of what we're looking for with Palm Beach County, and that is that we conduct joint training on major incidences, much as like is done already throughout Palm Beach County with other municipal fire departments in the county and in between municipal fire departments. And I'm very encouraged by Chief Kennedy's comments today about working on training for interoperability. That's what we're looking for. We understand that there's some concerns with our request for an August 1st start date. So either way, we're going to be fully prepared to assume services on October 1st, 2026, and just respectfully request your approval of our COPCN today. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I have several lights on. Are they questions for Chief Donato? Okay. Commissioner Flores. I think we had one more card. We do have one more card, but this is a question for Chief Donato.
Chief, enlighten me here a little bit. Where are you currently with your fire stations? Because I understand you have to build two.
Yes, sir. They're under construction. They'll be completed in May of 2026.
And are you 100% sure that they're going to be built on May of 2026?
We're 100% sure that they'll be built, because if they're not, then the contract we have with the contractors requires them to provide us with temporary stations in lieu of that, which are very expensive.
Okay. I'm concerned about the timeline that you're proposing. I'm concerned about that August 1st. There's a lot of moving parts to starting a fire station.
Yes, there is, sir.
You still have to get, I heard the number 100 firefighters, and those aren't just anywhere. And so I'm concerned about you having the fire stations, you having the equipment. I used to have a fire station in Green Acres. Getting a fire truck's not easy. You have all your fire trucks in line?
Yes, sir. They'll be delivered well in advance.
You said ordered or delivered?
They will be delivered by June of 2026.
Okay.
Ambulances will come in December of 2026, 25.
And when are you estimating to hire these firefighters?
We're fully confident that we'll be able to hire all the firefighters and folks that we need. We currently have a list of, I want to say, 400 people.
But when?
I'm sorry?
When would be your starting date?
So we'll have all of our personnel, operational personnel, on duty on June 1st.
June 1st?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Powell, are your questions for Chief Donato?
Yes, Madam Mayor, they are.
Go right ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Donato. Good to see you today.
Good to see you, sir.
You mentioned Tequesta, and maybe I missed this part. When Tequesta started its fire program or its fire department, did they also have an interlocal agreement that required them to do a co-response?
Yeah, I'm not sure of that, sir. I really don't have that answer. I wish I did, but I don't know.
Do you have any documented research of any departments who have started that require this co-response?
So I tell you where the history of this comes from. So our deputy chief is a fellow named Steve Shaw. He's retired from Fort Lauderdale Fire Rescue. The city of Fort Lauderdale took over EMS services from Broward County. I don't remember the date, but in the 90s, right? And in that process, they did a 2-month transition of services where they did a co-response. And it was mutually agreed upon who would go to what calls. So it might be one engine from one provider and an EMS truck from another, or it might be an ambulance from one provider and an engine from the other. Again, this is the mechanism they used in Fort Lauderdale when they took over the EMS services from Palm Beach County. It seemed like a great model. It worked really well historically. It worked well for Fort Lauderdale, and so hence our suggestion for that as well.
Follow up? Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's been dialogue with regard to, on the co-response, who would be responsible for what. Could you allow me to understand if it is a co-response, and with Palm Beach County Fire Rescue still being the main responder, would you have the responsibility to send the proper resources and even be a part of the call, or would you be relegated to just being there to watch and review?
Yes, so the details of this plan, we would say, would be mutually agreed upon with Palm Beach County. In essence, it's my view, Palm Beach County has a contract for those services, and they are the primary provider. Having the COPCN to allow us to respond with them, we would do that based on what Palm Beach County agreed to. In other words, we'd be in their dispatch system. If they sent us, we went. If they didn't send us, we don't. What they sent us on would be agreed upon by them. Again, we would allow them to make that choice and decision. It was just a matter of working together for a period of time before October 1st of 2026.
Thank you. And as a follow-up to that, Chief, it appears that although you say mutually agreed upon, it seems this agreement, even the interlocal agreement, seems to be one-sided. I've not heard anybody from Palm Beach County yet indicate that they were willing to work or have had any conversation with regard to the interlocal agreement that's passed. I think that's maybe part of the tension that we've seen is that there was an interlocal agreement, and if I'm not mistaken, Chief Kennedy said they reviewed it one time and there was supposed to be an opportunity to work together and respond, and the next time it was passed by the council. That's a challenge that we obviously will need to work past, because I keep hearing the word mutual, but the definition that's coming out of those terms seems to be exclusive. So you say mutual, but I see exclusive. That's really challenging for me.
Yes, sir, and I understand your perspective. I completely understand that. For us, we think that there's time to work on that mutually agreeable transition between now and August, but there isn't time for us, to do that without the opportunity. And so, again, whatever the county commission decides with respect to date, I respect that. Again, we'll be ready October 1st, 2026 to respond.
Thank you. Excellent.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Baxter.
I'm going to wait for that.
Commissioner Weiss, did you? Okay, thank you. Okay. Thank you very much.
You.
And we have
Appreciate it.
one last card, I believe.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. My name is Seth Cohen, and I'm a proud resident of Palm Beach County, and I live in the town of Jupiter. This commission, as you look at the COPCN start date, I've appreciated the emphasis on the safety of the residents, that this is primarily about what is best for the residents. And as someone who works and lives in Jupiter, I have received great service from Palm Beach County Fire and Rescue, and I believe the August start date of the 2-month transition period where Palm Beach County maintains responsibility and allows Jupiter to walk alongside them. I think it speaks to the brotherhood of first responders, and I think that provides a great 2 months as this transition takes place on October 1st. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. And that is the last of our cards. So, Commissioner Weiss, you've been patient.
Thank you, Mayor. Let the record show I've been noted as being patient. Chief Kennedy, could I ask you to come back to the lectern, please?
Yes, sir.
So, in hearing the discussion today, it really, to me, it comes down to a situation of command and control of these incidents and how that might, with crossover, if you were to have a crossover period, how that would potentially work. And in your line of work, there's a very clear command and control structure. I mean, you're semi-military in the way you organize and deploy yourselves. So can you talk about that? And because when I start to think about co-responding, well, who's giving the orders and who, and if somebody decides, well, that's not my department, I'm not taking that order from that person, how does that, what would that do in a situation?
To me, it's confusing. So I just want to speak to something that was mentioned before. So I believe the split of Broward County, I think that was right around the start of my career in around 1994. And that was really, Broward County was not providing service. I think it was mentioned Palm Beach County, but it was Broward County and Fort Lauderdale. So Broward County basically dissolved the county areas, and the city started to take over transport. That was a long time ago. And that was because another department essentially wasn't going to be providing those services anymore. So to me, I think this is a much different situation. I would like to keep the lines clear and clean of who's responsible for what. I would like to focus on our interoperability as they start their department on October 1st. And I think that will be the cleanest for all. I do believe that our men and women, and I have been worried about this from the beginning, they have held themselves in the highest regard. Our satisfaction rating was somewhere around 98, 99%. It's up to 100 in Jupiter. They are delivering the level of service that I would expect from my own family member, despite the rumors, despite conversations and uncertainty. They have delivered that service. So I respectfully ask that we just start this October 1st.
Right. And somebody also mentioned earlier about the concern about the dispatchers. I would have that concern as well, as who's calling in and needing, when they're asking for additional resources, or if they're, I would think that would be very confusing and to the folks on the ground not knowing who's doing what.
So our dispatchers are really tasked with a lot. And as treatments evolve and different hospitals with different specialties, everything that they're managing is more every day. I do not think this is necessary to put upon them.
Okay. And then there was a speaker earlier who talked about a mass casualty event. Mm-hmm. You all train for mass casualty events, and there's plans in place on how resources are deployed. And I'm guessing, you may not be able to talk specifically about it because of potential security concerns on how this all works, but can you just talk to the public about how you all are prepared for those kinds of mass casualty events?
Sure. So we have, I don't know the last one that we did, but we do have county-wide training, and it involves law enforcement at the same time, along with a co-response. So we all know, again, the lines of communication and delineation of who's responsible for what. And that's all of the law enforcement agencies. The There is a countywide SOG, which Chief Donato was instrumental in trying to make sure, through the Fire Chiefs Association many years ago, trying to make sure that we're all on the same page. So those documents do exist. We do train for that. And I would expect that the town of Jupiter, I saw in just a review of my district chief that's in the audience, attended something that the town did. I would expect them to invite us to be involved with that training just in case that's something that singularly Jupiter does within their own city. Sometimes it's collective. Sometimes we do stuff through FAU, and we get invited and we participate. So it's just really about the agency and what they want to do.
Okay. And then and they talk about an interlocal agreement that hasn't come in front of us, but I guess has been circulating around. And I mean, it just seems to me that if you were to try to develop an interlocal agreement between two parties, the two parties would first come together and, maybe with an outline or a draft and go through it, and may have multiple meetings for everybody to look at it, maybe take it back to their offices for additional expertise to look at it and review it and be coming back together. Has anything like that happened in this case?
In this case, it was signed here.
All right. Well, to the folks from Jupiter, might be beneficial to maybe rethink how you develop that interlocal agreement, and maybe to sit down cooperatively and collegially and look at potentially doing iterations. And I think that's when I've worked on contracts and trying to develop plans and so forth with outside groups, that's typically how I've done it in my past. And then lastly, and just closing out, as everybody has said, this is really about the safety of our residents, but it's also about the safety of our staffs as well. I mean, and I see we have a lot of folks here from our fire rescue. I mean, very clearly, thank you very much for your service. But I know each and every one of us on this board cares deeply about your safety, as well as safety of every county employee and every resident here, and making sure that we don't have confusing things happening. If we, it's confusing enough when you have a situation and lots of things are happening at the same time. It's confusing enough, and to try and layer other things on top of it, to me, doesn't make sense. And so I will be supporting your request, Chief, as the start date.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Hi again, Chief.
Hello there.
So I want to thank you for answering the tough questions.
Yes, ma'am.
It is always my goal to get to the bottom of any issue, see both sides of it.
Yes, ma'am.
And after listening to both sides, I have to say thank you again, because I don't think we should start this early. I have not heard a convincing reason to start it early. I have not heard any reason we should confuse our dispatches, stretch resources, have fire trucks at another call that could be answering someone else. I don't want to put other residents at risk. So again, starting with residents in mind, their safety being number one, and that's where I think it kind of landed for me. I don't want to take away from one other. I did like the idea, maybe not for 2 months, but some sort of cross-training prior to a start date. I will say that because I thought, what can it hurt? But you've clearly laid out how that could go seriously wrong, and I want to thank you for that.
Thank you, ma'am.
And so I will be supporting this today, and I'm going to make the motion to approve 4C1 with the effective date of October 1 as it currently stands.
I have a motion
for
and
your
a
support.
I have a motion and a second. Commissioner Flores, your light is on.
Yeah, I just wanted to make some additional comments regarding this process. Town of Jupiter, I'm happy for you guys. You guys made a decision, and you're going to start your own fire station. However, with that, there were things on your end that you have to bring across the finish line, and I'm concerned about some of the timeline. You literally have 15 months to get everything up and running, and I think you guys can do it. So to me, October 1st is sort of going to be the date that I'm I'm going to follow our direction from our chief. But at the end of the day, I want to make sure that you guys are up and running, operational day one. I mean, you're going to be accountable to your residents. We want to make sure that nothing occurs, no incidents or accidents because of lack of training or having firefighters that are not up to par. So I want to make sure that you guys get online, get the training that you guys need. And at the end of the day, it's about keeping your new firefighters safe too. This is a conversation that I had with our chief and our administration about how do we train, how do you train your staff, and how do we fill that gap? But to us, it's about filling the gap. It's not about providing the training, because you guys are wanting to go on your own. I think that's part of your responsibility to be able to meet that demand. And when we go into that agreement, there might be additional costs that it will require us to provide training to your team. So I have prioritized in my decision making the safety of our residents and our firefighters. So I want to make sure that your team is up to par on October 1st. And if there is that gap that we need to help you with, I think our administration will meet you halfway. But we have to feel comfortable with what you're doing, making sure that you have your fire stations, you have your equipment, that you're ready to roll October 1st. And I think from what I'm hearing from this board, safety of everyone involved is paramount. So I think giving you an additional 2 months, you might need that to get your team up to par. So thank you. I congratulate the town of Jupiter, hopefully on a new station, and to the union members that are here. I'm military, so it's like I'm Army, but my brothers in the Marines, we have that rivalry. But at the end of the day, when we're in the battlefield, we come together. And I think at the end of the day, these are going to be 100 new firefighters that hopefully will join your union and will become part of that brotherhood. So I know that we are at an impasse right now, but hopefully you guys will, when these firefighters come online, you adopt them as a brother, because that's what this is going to be. Because at the end of the day, when we come together to answer a call, that's what we want, is everybody working in unison and making sure that we keep our residents safe. So welcome, and I will be voting for October 1st. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Flores. And as the district commissioner, I want to say that first and foremost, and I've always said this, that our residents, no matter where they live, whether they're in an unincorporated or they're in a municipality that has their own fire department, they are entitled to the best service possible. So Jupiter has stated over and over and over again that they're fully confident that they will be as good or better than Palm Beach County. And I see that starting on October 1st. And I also see the county working with Jupiter, that if there is a need for some additional training, that the county work out some agreement with you to do that starting October 1st. I do think that the time frame of October 1, given the fact that there are so many unknowns between now and then, equipment to be delivered, equipment that might be behind, construction, if there's a hurricane event or any of that, I think the date of October 1st, which is 3 years from the contract agreement, is a good starting date. The county will always be here to back you up. That's what we do once all of the agreements are in place, by the way, and negotiated by both teams starting January, I believe. The county and the city will always be good partners. And I look forward to the safety of our residents and the safety of all of our staff being paramount to everyone. So with that, I think there is a motion and a second in place for the issuance of a primary provider, COPCN, starting October 1st. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? See that motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much. And I think we'll take a moment to, you guys want to stay or for the rest of the meeting, or you want to go? All righty. I think we are now on to our regular agenda. This would be item 5A1, and this is regarding the selection process for procurement. And staff has a presentation for us. Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. It's Samia Jala, Director of Facilities Development and Operations and Assistant County Administrator. Joining me at the table today is Melody Telwell, Director of Procurement of the county's Procurement Department, and Michael Jones, Chief Assistant County Attorney. As you may remember, back in April, the board directed staff to return at a later time with an overview of existing procurement processes and options to provide for increased board participation in the county selection processes. This item seeks to fulfill that board direction. Please note that this presentation does not include procurement processes where price is the sole determinant for award. Our presentation centers on requests for proposals, which also includes invitations to negotiate. In other words, procurement processes that include an evaluation component. We shall also share with you that we're presenting some options, not all options, because if we were to cover every potential option that might be available, we will require an inordinate amount of time. The options presented are based on what we believe to be of the interest of the board, based on comments that the board has made during public meetings. Depending on the outcome of today's conversation, staff may need to return at a later time with additional options for consideration. Once the board selects the options, if any, that as you may choose, that it would like to implement, staff will need to identify the documents that will need revisions and then update them accordingly. This slide gives you an overview of legal framework. We will not take a deep dive into the RFP processes as they relate to the legal framework. However, for sake of this presentation, suffice it to state that there are statutory and procedural requirements that must be met. With that brief background said, let us discuss how we currently manage requests for proposals. To simplify the conversation, we will present you options based on the three foundational phases that are the basis for every procurement process: pre-advertisement, advertisement to receipt of proposals, and evaluation and award. So, what is our current process? This slide provides you with an overview of the board's and staff's responsibilities in each phase. During pre-advertisement, staff is in charge of drafting the RFP along with all supporting documents such as contracts and agreements. In doing so, we must ensure that statutory and procedural requirements are met. Staff also conducts all outreach efforts and completes all administrative tasks. The board's involvement during the pre-advertisement phase is establishing policy, and the board does so through the budget approval process or via individual items. Please note that with very limited exceptions, such as revenue leases in airports, staff has no discretion to work on items if the board has not provided an approval. During the advertisement to receipt of proposals phase, which is a purely administrative stage of the process. Staff is engaged in conducting pre-proposal meetings, receiving and responding to questions, issuing supplements, and other similar tasks. The board has no active engagement other than noting that the cone of silence comes into effect when proposals are received. During the last phase, evaluation and award, which occurs, as you can imagine, after proposals are received, staff conducts the responsiveness review, and based on current processes, the selection committee conducts short and final selections. The board is notified via email at the time proposals are received, when short selection occurs, and final selection is completed. If no commissioner objects, then staff continues to move the process along, and we negotiate a contract for consideration by the board. The board receives the selection committee's recommendation for award along with a negotiated contract, and then makes a final determination during a public meeting. So what options we have identified? We have identified two potential options that you could consider during pre-advertisement. Option number one will entail having staff send an email to the Board of County Commissioners prior advertisement of all RFPs, requests for proposals, providing a deadline for any commissioner to request an item to be brought to the board's attention. If no request is received, then staff proceeds with advertisement. If a commissioner has a given RFP that it would like to further discuss, then staff will submit an agenda for consideration by the board at a public meeting, during which the board will provide direction to staff. Following the same, staff will then go ahead and advertise the RFP. Option number two will entail having staff submit the RFP document, the actual RFP, to the board prior to advertisement for discussion during a board meeting. Staff will then incorporate revisions as directed by the board, and then proceed to advertisement of the procurement. During phase two, we have identified three options that the board could consider during the advertisement to receipt of proposals phase. Option one will entail having staff send an email notification to the board advising that the RFP has been issued. The board could then direct staff to modify the RFP, and staff will issue supplements accordingly. Option two will entail having the board designate a commissioner to communicate with staff during this phase. That will include participating in the proposal meetings and site visits, reviewing supplements prior issuance, among other administrative tasks. Option number three will entail having staff bring to the board's attention all questions received for discussion during a public meeting. During the final phase, we have identified four potential options that this board could consider. Option number one will entail keeping the current process but enhancing it by providing the board with the selection committee's evaluation and ranking sheets. Option number two will entail having the board designate a commissioner to serve on the selection committee. Option number three will entail having staff complete the shortlist and then forward those proposals selected to the board, which will then conduct the selection at a public meeting. Following selection by the board, then staff will need to negotiate the contract. And then option number four will entail having staff conduct responsiveness review only and forward all responsive proposals to the board, in order for the board to conduct short and final selection at a public meeting. Following selection by the board, then staff will proceed to negotiate the contract. As the board considers the options that we have brought to the table, we believe there are some factors of relevance that warrant consideration. The first one, we have called it standard templates, and it's important to highlight that through the years, we have developed templates for all recurrent solicitations. The vast majority of what we issue is basically for run-of-the-mill works of our projects. Therefore, in practical terms, this means that staff is just updating the project-specific, procurement-specific information in that RFP template. Workload, just to give you a point of reference, nothing else. In fiscal year 24 and fiscal year to date, purchasing, the county's 5 construction departments, and housing and economic development completed 75 requests for proposals. And I will highlight completed. We have not listed everything we advertised. We listed everything that led to an award as of the day of the agenda item. To keep it simple, if we do some basic math and we assume that every RFP results in 6 proposals received and 3 are shortlisted in every process, having selections occur at the board level will have significant time impacts on the board's public meetings. There's an evaluation threshold to be met, and that means that selection cannot be arbitrary and capricious. Therefore, if selections are occurring at the board level, the board will be required to thoroughly substantiate the selection made, similar to what is currently done by the selection committee. There are some sunshine law provisions that warrant highlighting. Under current processes, the sunshine law provides for presentations to the selection committee to be done in closed sessions when there is information that is of business confidential nature. Depending on the options selected by the board, the county attorney's office will need to provide further guidance as to how confidential business information will be handled. As it relates to potential impacts to project development, currently staff notifies the board via email of the recommended award, and if no objections are received, then staff proceeds to negotiate a contract, which is then brought to the board for approval. If moving forward, selections are to be made at the board level, staff will need to negotiate the contract after the board makes a selection. In practical terms, this adds a step to the process. This board should also note that currently staff responds to requests from different stakeholders. If moving forward, evaluation and selection are to occur at the board level, processes will need to be adjusted accordingly. Lastly, the county's approach to protests, legal challenges, and litigation may need to be revisited based on the options to be selected by the board. For example, our current protest process provides that the purchasing director receives the protest and issues a determination. Depending on the determination, the protester may choose to proceed to a special master. If the board is making the selection, it will not make sense for a protest to be filed with the purchasing director. The practical effect then will be a reduction in the opportunities the county has to address procedural flaws. Another example is litigation. Currently, staff supports the county attorney's office through the discovery and litigation processes. We provide information, answer questions, and serve as corporate representative because we can speak as to the process and how it evolved. If the process occurs at the board level, then it might be with the commissioners or with the mayor as the board's representative to be correctly positioned to be able to speak as to that process. In preparing this item, we thought it will be of value to provide the board with some information as to what other comparable counties are doing. Melody will walk you through the feedback received from our benchmarking outreach.
Thank you, Isame, and thank you, Mayor and Vice Mayor and Commissioners and our interim county administrator for your time today. We contacted 6 comparable-sized counties and asked questions related to their selection processes for RFPs. Miami-Dade County is also included, and it may be considered an outlier due to its size. So on this slide, let's discuss the feedback we received from Broward County. Perfect. Broward County, the RFP drafting and administrative process is handled by staff. Commissioners do not participate in the selection process. Broward County did note that commissioners previously participated in the selection processes until 2008 when issues arose, such as ethical, conflicts of interest, criminal proceedings, which led to the revision of those counties' policies as they currently stand. Staff issues an email notification to the BCC prior to advertisement. If no commissioner objects, within 5 days, staff proceeds with the advertisement. Selection process is handled by staff. Staff notifies the BCC via email of selection rankings if no objections are received. Staff proceeds to negotiate the contract. Contracts over $500,000 are submitted to their BCC for approval. The cone of silence is in effect from advertisement to award, and Broward has this one-way communication permitted where a commissioner can reach out to a proposer. Now on to Miami-Dade County. RFP drafting and administrative process is handled by staff. In select occasions, the BCC has requested to review the RFP document, at which time the entire document has been made available to the BCC, not to individual commissioners. Responsiveness review is done by the county attorney's office. Selection process is handled by staff. Commissioners do not participate in the selection process. The procurement director in Miami-Dade approves the rankings from the selection committee. Staff negotiates the contract. Contracts over $5 million are subjected to BCC for approval. Cone of silence is in effect from advertisement to notice of proposed award. On the next following slides from Lee County, Pinellas, and Hillsborough are very similar in their processes. For example, the RFP drafting and administrative process is handled by staff. Selection process is handled by staff. Commissioners do not participate in the selection process, and staff negotiates the contract. So let's just focus on the variances in their processes. So for Lee County, if you follow me on this slide, the last two bullets are the variance. Contracts over $100,000 are submitted to the BCC for approval, and their cone of silence is in effect from advertisement to award. For Pinellas County, the variance here is staff prepares a single agenda item with rankings and a negotiated contract. The cone of silence is in effect from advertisement to award. And then for Hillsborough County, the variance here is contracts over $250,000 are submitted to the BCC for approval, and the cone of silence is in effect from advertisement to notice of intent to award. This next slide details the feedback received from Orange County, whereby they're the only county that may allow commissioners to sit on the selection committee. Similar to previous counties, Orange also allows the RFP drafting and administrative process is handled by staff. Selection process is handled by staff as well. Again, the commissioners may sit on the selection committee. Staff negotiates the contract, and the cone of silence is in effect from advertisement to the notice of intent to award. In summary, only one of the 6 comparable counties that we contacted provides for the commissioners to participate in the selection committee. None of the 6 counties have, as its standard process, selections occurring at the BCC level. All counties indicated that the BCC holds the authority to overturn recommendations for award, but the same are rarely seen due to the process being followed. Again, in summary, some common topics that emerge as basis for existing processes being implemented by the 6 reference comparable counties. Avoidance of conflicts of interest, avoidance of political considerations, keeping a level playing field for all vendors, no unfair advantages, control to prevent favoritism, avoidance of litigation and associated cost, minimizing risk, higher standard of compliance, systematic and streamlined approach, centralized processing, and a single point of contact. For the remainder of the presentation, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Isimi. Thank you.
So, thank you, Melody. Commissioners, we were not directed to bring you and provide you a recommendation. We have very respectfully included one in hopes that it will add value. The recommendation is highlighted in yellow on this slide. We recommend you retain the base process as it stands and incorporate minor modifications allowing for increased board participation. Why do we recommend you retain the current process? Number one, because it aligns with statutory requirements. Number two, it aligns with the practices of comparable counties. Also, it reflects the expertise of your professional staff and the lessons, if I may say, hard-learned through protest and litigation. It provides for a consistent, fair, and systematic approach to public procurement, therefore minimizing risk to the county. What minor modifications do we recommend? Have staff send the board a notification prior issuance of all requests for proposals so that the board can request for any specific RFP to be brought for discussion at a public meeting. Also, have staff include copies of the selection committee's evaluation notes and rankings in the agenda item recommending award. Lastly, have the board make the final selection in exceptional circumstances only, and even in those instances, have staff complete the shortlist process. This brings us to the end of staff's presentation. We are seeking direction as to which modifications the board would like to be implemented in the county selection processes, be it from those that we have presented or others that the board would like us to consider or would like to consider. Thank you.
Thank you, Isami. That was very complete. I have no lights on.
Any cards?
No cards. Commissioner Sachs.
I know we've heard a lot today, so I'm going to try to get right to the point. I think the issue today, Dr. Ayala, is that we would be looking at how we, as the Board of County Commissioners, can have a voice in the selection process. I believe that is it. Is that correct? And correct me if I'm incorrect.
That is correct.
Okay, so your recommendation is what?
Keep the current process and modify it to provide for that increased participation.
I'm sorry, so continue with what we've been doing?
Modified, not...
Modified as?
Modified by including having staff notify you before we advertise of all requests to be advertised. That will give the board an opportunity to pull any given solicitation that is of interest and give us additional direction as to how you would like for that specific solicitation to be advertised. And then we are also recommending that we be directed to include the background information, which we currently do not.
No, I've read that. I've read that. No, I was asking you sort of personally, because you've been working on this for how long have you been working on this issue?
Since the board gave us direction in April.
No, but I mean, how many years have you been working on staff with regard to procurement?
Procurement, I've been here almost 6 years. I have been responsible for construction procurement, and I also led with my colleagues the revision for the county's procurement code, so.
6 years?
Basically.
I'm sorry?
Basically, yes.
6 years, okay. On page 9, the option 4 is that we get all of these procurement proposals. Is that something that you would recommend or suggest that would give the Board of County Commissioners a little more input into these procurements?
I will not recommend it. It will give the board significantly more input. It will have the board running the entire
selection process. It would give the board
process.
more input, and I think that's what we want.
Understood.
Is that what you were directed to review?
We were directed to bring options.
To give the board more input.
Correct.
So option 4 would actually be the one that would give the board more input. So thank you for your recommendations. I like option 4 because I think this is what we want. We want to be able to participate in a transparent way for the public to review what it is about the procurement process. So I appreciate the work that you put into this. Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to clarify, on slide 9, option 4, can you clarify what exactly that option is? With the staff conducts only responsive review, and then would we then be the selection committee?
Correct. Option number 4 basically says, we receive the proposals, we make sure that every document that needed to be included is there. We do not evaluate the content, the substance of the proposals, and we give you board all the proposals, and you do the short list and the final list at a public meeting.
And how much time exactly would that take?
Significant, and that's why we provided you a point of reference. If we assume, for sake of the conversation, that there are 6 proposals received per procurement, and we share with you, we have done 73 in the last year and a half, basically. And then you multiply times 2 meetings, it will have a significant impact on this board's schedule.
Okay, so if I could go back to, on page 7, and also page 10, where you're talking about the RFPs, you mentioned the ones that are standard templates. But how many pages are those standard template RFPs?
Typically, I will say they're around 100, 150 pages, depending on the attachments you have. Our base document, which contains the general conditions, I'm going to say standard language. I cannot describe it any other way. Risk management, legal protest process, everything else. It's that initial 100, 150 pages, and then depending on the number of attachments you have, it can grow. We call it, or I will say I call it run-of-the-mill, because that's the vast majority of the work we do. You, for example, approve construction project. I'm going to use that out of a personal preference. We come through the budget process, and you give us money to build Airport Center 3. What is the first thing I'm going to do? I'm going to go procure design services. I have a template for that, which means I am just inserting in that template the description of the building. Airport Center is going to be a 160,000 square feet building, so on and so forth, located here. Everything else has already been vetted by county attorney, by risk management, by the other colleagues within county staff that need to review. That's the vast majority of the work we do. Every now and then, we will come across what I'm going to call special projects, right? We recently went through the airport's food and beverage. That is a good example. South County Administrative Complex, where this board considered the item 6 times, this board and prior boards, entails some policy decisions, and that's why we brought it back. It was not a straight construction. So that will be my point of reference, to give you kind of run-of-the-mill and then special projects.
So sticking to the run-of-the-mill ones, how long are the proposals that are received? Like what is sent with their proposal?
Hundreds of pages, because every time, let's use engineering as an example. Every time an engineer and an architect submits a proposal that is governed by Florida statutory requirements, and it needs to be qualifications-based. So it means that in every selection, that company, that firm is proving, is showing, I am qualified and I am the best qualified. So if you have a team that a firm put together for a contract and it has been 20 engineers, you're going to have 20 resumes with background. So it's hundreds of pages, Commissioner.
So you had in your recommendation on page 22 an option that to have the BCC make the final selection in exceptional circumstances only. So that would then, all of the boilerplate ones that you were just describing would not be a part of that. It would be the airport one you mentioned, ones that are kind of one-offs.
It will be the board's decision, right? And that's why we're recommending, let us tell you everything that we're publishing. And if nothing piques your interest because you think a policy decision needs to be made, keep those running. Whatever piques your interest, pull it, give us direction, and we will run that procurement per your policy direction.
So then by being able to do that, you would email all of us a certain number of days, which I guess we would decide how many days notice we would need. And if the board were to decide we want, like this one is exceptional and we want more involvement in it, then that is what this option represents, right?
That option represents that, yes, to answer your question. And then, if I may, is the process that Broward currently uses. They provide the commissioners 5 days. If no commissioner requests for an item to be brought to their attention, staff keeps rolling. If a commissioner requests for staff to bring it to their attention, staff puts together an agenda item. So we will be sitting at this table saying we request directions to how you would like us to proceed on this procurement.
Okay, I would be in support of that. I don't want all of these by any stretch I don't want that. I don't want to sit on these selection committees. But I understand that there's going to be maybe a few a year. Mm-hmm. Hopefully no more than that would rise to that level that this board wants extra involvement. But since you mentioned Broward, I had marked it, and we had this discussion about their one-way cone of silence. And now granted, I love the cone of silence once it gets in, especially on some of these projects where we've been bombarded. But I asked you to dig a little more into theirs, and it's one way, meaning only the commissioner can initiate a conversation if they have a question. It doesn't mean once that door is opened, it's wide open. It's still one way. The commissioner would need to continue if there's another question or clarification that they want. And I had asked you if we were to do something like that. I think that this board would like that. I know there's been times where I would like to ask a question, but I think we should disclose it. When we get to the time where, we're voting on this, just disclose if we've talked to any of the applicants, like we do for zoning. Just, we're disclosing we had conversations. But again, that doesn't open the door for them to just start calling us all the time. I'd like to hear what anyone else thinks about that. Or maybe you love the cone of silence and want to keep it there, but there have been a few times where I would have liked to have initiated a conversation to get some more information from an applicant or understand something. And again, that the cone of silence that they have, is it after they have or after the applicant has put in their RFP, or is it once the RFP is noted? Because we would need to put the timing on it as well.
Going back to Brower, it is in effect from advertisement to award, so it actually starts significantly earlier than ours. They do not have an obligation, the commissioners, to disclose, and I just heard you would like to see something different. Melody did some additional follow-up with our colleagues from Brower, and that they did share that although the commissioners do not have an obligation to disclose, they do tend to make the comment of during the meeting, I didn't see X or Y in the proposal, therefore I call so on and so forth, whomever they reach out to. So additional information to consider.
Well, my other consideration, and I'd like everyone to pipe in, if we were to have opened the door for the one-way communication for us to get clarification, I think it should happen after they have submitted their proposal, not before, because I don't want it to seem like if we're having conversations and trying to help someone with their proposal, to keep us clean from any improprieties, or at least the accusation of it. If we can't have conversations with them once the RFP goes out, but then after they put in their proposal, I think that we should be allowed to speak with the applicant, because their proposal is already submitted. They can't change it. But if we would like some clarifications on that, and I think that we should disclose if we have those conversations, just to say, I wasn't sure, I didn't understand this part, and I wanted to reach out, and I got clarification. So that would be the end of mine. But I like what you've put together. I don't want every one of these to come to us, exceptional ones only. So.
Thank you. Commissioner Flores.
First of all, thank you, staff, for bringing this back up, and I apologize that we couldn't get to this last week. That meeting ran a little long, but thank you for holding in there and bringing this back up today. I do agree with Commissioner Woodward's comments regarding the cone of silence. I also do believe that it should be after proposals have been turned in and we have seen them. I mean, you shouldn't have questions before the proposals are submitted. So I do like that one-way cone of silence. In regards to what's recommended, I do agree with your recommendations, the bottom three. I'm assuming that would almost happen at the RFP notice, so that we have some participation, because that's how you issue it. If ultimately you're doing the short list and then bringing it to us to pick the top two or the top three. Mm-hmm. So that would have to be done at the RFP process, right?
We will, if we're following this recommendation, we will notify you that we're in the process of issuing an RFP. If you're not interested, we keep it rolling. If you are, we bring it to the board and you will tell us, we board want to do final selection. And we will prepare that RFP stating that staff will conduct shortlist selection and that the board will do final selection.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with this. I don't want to be a selection. I don't want to be part of the selection committee. How many RFPs do you guys do a year?
We did, and you have it as an attachment, fiscal year 24 and 25 to date, 73 RFPs completed.
73, and the selection process is about how long?
It may take a couple months, depending on the number of proposals received, and that is an optimal estimate, to be honest. Because you need to give the proposers time to present between shortlist or prepare between shortlist and final, right? So those that come to final actually put together a presentation to show you what they are proposing. And then you have staff that needs to go through hundreds of pages, depending on the number of proposals received.
Okay. Yeah, I know I've been one of the more vocal commissioners regarding being having a little bit more say in selection of some of these contracts. And ultimately, that's because if we select something and it fails, it is the board that is going to receive the public's opinion or outburst. Because at the end of the day, it's up to us to make the final decision. And I have used the word rubber stamp, which I know you are not a fan of. But it's because at the end of the day, you guys are making the selection, and we're here to basically ratify what the selection committee has done. There are some instances that I would have liked, and we're postponing one of those items, which is a transportation master plan, where I feel we should have had more say than we have. Which is the reason that I brought up the RFP, that I wanted to see what kind of engagement we were going to have, and we weren't given that opportunity. So there are a few, like you said, items that this board might want to pull so that we have a little bit more say into what occurs. Because I think these are things that will affect everybody, and they're not reoccurring. The airport, I think everybody here had a little bit of say regarding what went into the airport. The transportation master plan, there might be a couple of others that may come forward. But yeah, I don't want to be part of the selection committee. I have full faith in our staff to conduct some of those. There are some that I do want to have a little bit more of an input, rather than at the end when you have already made the final selection and then we just have to approve. So I like the opportunity that you will submit the RFPs to us to be able to pull if we want, if we deem that it's we want to bring to the board, and then the board makes that decision whether they want to outline, go that separate route where we make, you bring it down to top 2, top 3, and then we sort of get to decide. So thank you for the work. Great job.
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, SME. Thank you for putting this together. Couple things. You talked about potentially these coming back to the board in. How long a delay would it be to get onto our agenda?
For what process? For final selection or for contract?
For final selection.
For final selection, we will schedule it. If you decide we are doing shortlist in those special RFPs, as soon as the shortlist is completed, we will move ahead and submit an agenda item. The typical cycle to submit an agenda item is 4 to 5 weeks.
So it'll add another month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I did some quick math. I do not want to deal with all these RFPs. If you have 73, and you said you have 6 proposers, and you have 15 minutes each, and you have to do it twice, that's 219 hours. That's 36 and a half days. That's 3 days a month, sitting here looking at RFPs, in addition to everything else that we have to do. And I assume the preparation time to review the hundreds of pages of those RFPs is probably I don't know, let's call it 2 hours reasonably. Yeah, no. Thank you, but no thank you. I'm so happy you guys do this. As it relates to cone of silence, we have the opportunity today to ask questions or for proposers to send us information, as long as it's done in writing. And I don't know if my colleagues know that they can do that. So, as to, you know, I don't have a lot of, if folks, I don't have an objection if people want to move to that Broward methodology, but I do agree it should be disclosed. I think that if we're going to do that, because if it's in writing, then it is reproducible. We can provide that, you know, if in fact there's any kind of a lawsuit or anything, then those records are obviously they're public records and would be made available. So I think it's obviously better to have it in writing. That way somebody can't say they said something that somebody didn't say and things like that. I think when you're dealing with these kinds of, especially some of these RFPs are very complex as it relates to, you know, buildings and things like that. So, you know, as to your other suggestions, I think those are great suggestions that you've come up with, and I would be supportive of of implementing those. I think it provides a little more transparency. Since I've been on a member of this board, I think I can recall now 3, maybe there's a 4th, that we have actually brought back to this board over. So it's infrequent. And I think the system allows for us, I mean, well, I know it allows for us to do it because we've done it. And we have made those final selections when we felt, when the board felt like they wanted to engage on it. So I think the combination of the recommendations you're making and the, you know, we've always had the ability to, you know, bring these items in front of us and to make our own selection. So it's always existed. And now with having an opportunity, if folks want to see the RFP or have more information about it, that potentially would be available to them too. So I think that should hopefully satisfy everybody.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Baxter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you, staff, for bringing this back to us. I want to say, actually, I have 2 questions before I get into what I'm supporting. What would be the length of time under, I guess it would be slide 22. It says staff notify the BCC prior to issuance of all RFPs so that we can request for those RFPs to be brought back to a public meeting. What do you think would be a good length of time for that?
It's, I will recommend 5 to 10 days, not much more, so that we can keep moving. But it's the board's direction.
10 total days, not 10 business days?
Yes, but if this board decides differently, we will adapt.
No, I think that's good. That's what I wanted to ask. I think 10 days is reasonable. It gives us time to issue. Now, should any one commissioner decide that that particular project is important to them and they want it to come back to this board in a selection, that individual commissioner just has to respond to an email or of some sort to notify you which project they would like to see come back to the entire board.
Correct. We will send an email with the list of the RFPs. We will set the deadline, so to speak. The commissioner will state, I am interested on X, and we will bring it back to the board for discussion. And at that point, it gives the board an opportunity to say, we want you to consider 1, 2, 3, or we want to do the entire selection at the board level. It gives you an opportunity to set the policy for that procurement.
So I do support your recommendation, which might surprise you, with the few modifications. I do support keeping the base process as it stands. I also do support any commissioner being able to bring a special project back to, but I do want to add that they will be either 2 or 3 unranked.
May I? Please. So if this board were to decide, staff conduct the shortlist, we will do final. The shortlist is never ranked.
I just
okay?
want to make that very clear. If
Never
that is the way it
ranked.
is, great. We don't have to change anything then. So thank you for that.
We
Also,
just select the top 3. Obviously, we need to cut somewhere, but it has no ranking.
perfect. Also, I would like to support Commissioner Woodward's, where she had said that she would like the one-way cone of silence. I agree with a one-way. I do agree with it starting at the proposal phase, not the award phase, because I do agree, once it's submitted, it's there. I don't agree that we have to disclose it because I don't want to create more work for everyone involved, but I do like the idea of it's a good practice. Like you had said that the other commission does state it. I just don't want it to be a requirement or something that, oh my gosh, I forgot to disclose something. But I do like the general idea of the practice. So that out there. And I don't know that I would ever want to sit on a selection committee. No. But I will say that I am usually for options. And I can't tell you that any one district might have something that is super important to any one commissioner. And that I would just like that option be available. No one has to do it. It's not saying, hey, you have to do this. But I do have a question. If one of us did want to potentially say, hey, this project in my area is very important to me. I want to sit on that selection committee. How do you see that going? Would you see it as, okay, so they've helped select the top 3 that then come to the entire board?
It will depend on the direction the board gives. And I know I am not directly answering your question, but in all honesty, I cannot. Let me explain why, if I may. If we follow the recommendation and you say as a board, as a commissioner, please bring this item back, and then the board sets policy, it will be at that time when you will tell us as a board, we want to do the shortlist, we want to do the final, or we want you staff to do the shortlist and we will do the final, or we would like for this commissioner to be involved in the process, and he or she will have a seat at the table as the selection committee, and that might entail short and final, and it never comes back to the board for selection, or it might entail the commissioner sitting at short, but the board doing final. There are options, is what I'm trying to highlight, and the fact that we are recommending this process allows you or gives you the flexibility for special procurements to play with those options and decide which way you want to go. So it will be, in other words, the board's decision as to that specific procurement.
So as a part of the recommendation, you're saying that we commissioners, and I don't even mind bringing it to the board, say, this is a project that's come onto my radar. I would like to, and any one of us, sit on this selection committee. Would you guys mind if we do that and then send it how it currently is, or top 3, and you ask that question? Is that what you're saying?
That's basically what I'm saying. What I'm saying, I'm going to walk through the potential process again. We send you an email with a list of every RFP. As a commissioner, you say to staff, bring this one, I want to discuss at the board. We will put together an agenda item that says, on this date, we notify the Board of County Commissioners, we've received a notification from Commissioner Baxter, we are bringing this item for direction, and that will lead to discussion by the board as to, based on the standard process, what modifications you want. Okay, so we're always elaborating from that base
And
level
at that
process.
time, we can decide how we want it. We can also decide if we want to ask our board to sit on that selection committee, so on and so forth, is what you're saying.
It might be.
It just brings the discussion.
Exactly. Perfect. And if I may give you an example, if you allow me, I'm going to use airports as an example. In the case of airports solicitation, it might have been a conversation of, we want to make sure you include agriculture. We want to make sure you have food alternatives. Or it might have been, we want to see the last top 3. We will do final selection. Anything in between could have been an option.
Okay. No, and I do. I like that, it at least allows for that conversation to occur. Selection. Yeah, no, I think that was it. I think I covered most of what I heard as well. So I will let the next commissioner go.
Thank you. Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a question. The recommended process, that recommendation, does that require any additional meetings, or is there potential for additional meetings with that requirement? Because if we see some of those proposals that are in advance and we have 5 to 10 days to review those proposals, would that then entail special meetings?
It will, depending on the decision the board makes. And let me go back so that I'm clear and I don't lose anyone along the way. What you will get first is an email saying, we will advertise. If you don't tell us otherwise, we're going to keep moving forward. If you tell us, I am interested on X, on this particular RFP, we're going to bring it back. And at that point, for board direction, you will tell us, we want to be the final selection. If you make that decision, then it adds a meeting to your board meeting. It adds an item that eventually you will be considered. It adds responsibility on the board to review those top 3 proposals. If you tell us we want to do shortlist and final, we will advertise the RFP, we will get the proposals, we will do responsiveness review, we will send everything to you, and then it will add not 1, but 2, short and final. I know I'm giving you a lengthier response, but it's a function of what you decide as a board.
Okay, I can appreciate that. The follow-up question is this idea of the one-way cone of silence. Does that already exist where we can reach out, or that's not, that would be something that would be newly implemented with the new strategy?
It exists in writing, and Mike, you can chime in as needed. To implement it, we will need, as discussed so far today, we will need to make revisions to the lobbyist ordinance.
Yeah, that's true. It is currently, it only prohibits oral communications following the receipt of proposals until the time the board awards the contract. And I actually was going to ask for a clarification, because what I'm hearing on the cone of silence is the board now looking to start the original cone of silence at the time of advertisement, where there's no communication then, and then the one-way occurs at the time of, after the submittal of proposals.
Commissioner Woodward?
Thank you. Yes, I think the cone of silence, once the RFP is issued until the proposals are received, they need to go and take the time, and we should not be a part of how they come up with their proposal. But then once they have issued their proposal, I would like the ability to, if we're doing these exceptional ones where we're going to be involved, the ability to have a one-way conversation where I initiate a question. And I know that we can do this in writing, but I'm a much better talker than I am a writer, so I would just prefer the ability to be able to speak with them. So.
Because currently, the cone of silence does not begin until the proposals are received. So the advertisement goes out, and there is no cone of silence in effect at that point in time until the proposers submit their, or until the day the proposals are due.
Wait. Yeah. Wait. So remind me, what is it right now? Right.
Right now, it's when the proposals. It doesn't start until the proposal due date.
Okay. Whatever it is right now, I like that part, and then giving us the ability to have one-way conversations.
After the proposal due date.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you for their clarification. Commissioner Powell, you still had questions?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, and I want to piggyback off of what Commissioner Weiss said, and I can agree with the timeframes, adding the additional amounts of time that it would take us to review projects. But also, I just want to clarify the significance of, if we were doing those reviews, the concern with regard to not only the sunshine, but the ability to have, I think what I'm trying to say is, their work product or their special, I can't think of it, but secrets that they have within their own proposals, trade secrets, exposed, that would also come into play if we were to take into account us reviewing those proposals.
That is correct, and that's why our recommendation is do it only in exceptional circumstances. What currently happens, whenever as staff we receive a proposal, those need to be marked and stamped when they are confidential and exempt. When we get public records requests, and we get quite a few, especially from the companies that were not recommended for award, we have the responsibility to redact the documents and make sure that we're only releasing what we are authorized to release. So if that is coming to you all as a norm, then it adds that burden on you and your staff.
Thank you.
Attorney Kaufman.
Since so many of the board members has said my job is to keep you all safe, I just feel obligated to point out that the more involved you are, the less safe you are. And the idea of reaching out to a vendor after they've submitted a proposal to ask a question is concerning to me only because you will be involved in protests. You will have to testify. You will be involved in litigation. Again, you will have to testify if it has anything to do with what you said or didn't say, or an unfair advantage, or any kind of arguments that people make because they're unhappy. So just be aware, you would probably be best to have a witness. You'd probably be best to take notes. Like I said, the more involved you are, the more exposed you are.
Thank you. So for the first round, I'm going to actually pipe in a little bit. Option one is really the opportunity for us to give you input on what we want to see on the RFP. Is that correct?
Are we referring to
pre-advertisement phase?
Pre-advertisement, that's basically it.
Because I think the reason we're having this conversation in the first place is because at the end of the day, we only saw it after all of the discussion, and we wanted to really have a little bit more input into what the RFP was going to look like.
Correct.
So I think for me, pre-advertisement phase option one is great, because if there's an RFP that comes out and say it's on transportation, before it gets completely formulated, I can say, have you talked to the city of Atlantis? Are they planning an airport? They already have one nearby, but I'm just saying. I mean, so basically it's our opportunity to give you input onto what information we would like to see in the RFP. So I think every one of us is in agreement with option one for pre-advertisement. So far, that's what I've heard. Commissioner Baxter, Vice Mayor Baxter.
Question, I don't disagree. I actually agree with more information. And I think it's up to us to be prudent. So thank you, Attorney Kaufman. Staff sends, option one, you're talking about staff sending email notifications to BCC prior to advertisement of all. Because to your point, yes, we've had some RFPs where we maybe wanted some more input on what was in them, and we weren't able to see that. When you notify us of the RFP based on your recommendations, notify us of the issuance of all RFPs, it's already been through the entire process?
No, it will be prior to advertisement.
So I guess my point is option one could still happen then?
Yes, we
That's
will.
what I was asking.
Exactly. So we will send you an email that has a list, nothing else. We have not advertised at that point, and we will say we are approaching advertisement. If you want us to hold not advertised so that you can give us policy direction, we will bring an agenda item.
Okay, just make it, because I thought we were already doing that. I just want to make sure I didn't.
No. If I may give you an example, Mayor and Vice Mayor and Commissioners, South County Admin Complex, I think it's a perfect example. I personally drafted that RFP, and if you were to look at it and read it, it actually has everything you said during the board meeting in the introduction. The board stated that this needs to go one way or another, right? So that's what we mean. We have done it before in other special cases.
Correct. I mean, I'm not interested in how many in RFP for, like, we need 37,000 widgets. I'm not interested in that. But if we're doing an RFP for the redesign of the North County complex, then yes, as a board, we might want input on that. So option one, I think, is a great option. Advertisement of receipt of proposals, I do agree again with option one. Evaluation and award phase, I do like option one. I don't necessarily believe a commissioner should sit on the selection committee, only because I don't want there to seem like there is a bias or any impropriety. I think us not being part of the selection committee keeps us above board, and we always have the opportunity to say yes or no to what the selection committee decided. But if we have input before then, and we have the ability to see the RFP pre-written and whatnot, I think that would give you the opportunity to get the input from the board. And as for us having 10 days to respond, and if we don't, then I think that's great. So that was the first round of volley. So on the second round of volley, Commissioner Sacks and then Commissioner Flores.
Thank you so much, Mayor. And I started this conversation, and I think we've really gotten some good consensus. So I would like either you, Mayor, or Isami to give us an idea of how we're going to proceed on this. And always, you're going to be bringing it back anyways, right, Isami? So we'll be reviewing this. I'd like to see an idea where we do it for 60 days and see how it works. I mean, I've never been part of the procurement process. I don't know if every time we order widgets that's part of it. And certainly, I think that what you did here with Isami and incorporate minor modifications, allowing for increased BCC participation on page 22, really brings it all down to what we all want, which is give us an idea of what the county is doing with our money. And whether we want to get involved or not is good, because it's important for us to know the big issues, the big money issues like the airport or North County administrative. So I think that the mayor kind of brought it together on that, and you did too, Isami, on the bottom of page 22. So if we could have somebody just pull it all together, don't ask me to do it, but pull it all together, I think that we're all on the same page. Thank you, Mayor.
So Commissioner Flores, you want to go ahead, and then I'll have Isami kind of give a roundup of what she's heard, and then the vice mayor can.
Absolutely. I thought you had just done that, but
That's okay. Yeah, I thought so too. The one thing that I did not cover, though, was what do we want to do about the one-way communication? Mm-hmm. That's the one thing that I didn't really say anything about. But
so basically, I just want to go to your overall summary to the evaluation and award phase option. You mentioned option one. In my end, I checked off option 3. So I guess I just want to see what the difference is. I would like staff to do the selection process. I would like to receive or see the evaluations and ranking system. But there might be cases where I would love for the top 2 choices to come before us to decide. So is that option 3 or option 1?
I think option 3 is for every award. Option 1 is if there's something that we want to pipe in on.
Okay, so that's what I'm asking for clarification. It's option 1 would be, let's use transportation master plan. We wanted to see the final 2 candidates. Would that be option 1? Yes?
Commissioner Flores, may I?
Whoever wants to answer, I don't care.
So the thing that keeps being reiterated is actually on the staff recommendations page. On page 22, incorporate minor modifications. So what I've understood, so please correct me if I'm understanding incorrectly, is that any RFP that's going to be issued will all be emailed to all of us.
That's
right?
correct.
And then we have 10 days to respond. They will agenda an item to bring it back to the board to discuss. If we want to add anything to that RFP, take it out, how we want them, if we want 3 final unranked, any of those options will then we can discuss at the board meeting of that agenda item.
That's what I agree with, yep.
And so that's, where that all stood. The only thing I think we haven't agreed, we've had two different discussions on the cone of silence, how we want that to apply, and how we want,
I guess my concern is that when we select an option from evaluation and award phase, that we're not saying that this is one way we're going to do it and it's never going to come before us for the final selection. So as long as we have a say at the RFP process, then I'm okay with it.
May I
Yeah.
give this board a recommendation? Slides 7, 8, and 9 intended to give you options as you requested. But I will truly appreciate it if we can work from slide 22,
Okay.
which is our recommendation, because what we did was to take the best we found of everything to balance the process. That's what's behind the recommendation. So I'm going to walk through what I have heard, and hopefully this will be accurate. Based on the recommendation, we will keep the current process, which means staff runs selection for the vast majority of the RFPs, minus those that the board says, we want you to come back. We are going to tell you how to run the process. And to achieve that goal, it means that we will send you an email before we advertise. We will not advertise before we send you an email. We will give you 10 days. That's the magic number I heard, okay? 10 days to respond. If no responses are received, we will publish the RFP as we usually do. If a commissioner says, I am interested, we will draft an agenda item, bring it to this board, and this board will give us direction as to how it wants the selection process to proceed. Once the board gives direction, we will run that selection process as per board direction. For every other RFP that the board does not say, I am interested, we will run the selection process as we currently do. We will do short selection. We will bring you a final recommended company for award. You will be involved, I'm going to call it the extra step, on those that you choose, not in the bulk, in the vast majority of the processes. So that will be our recommendation at this point.
That is what I like. Thank you.
So we have direction. Then that brings us to the second topic. And that direction is direction we can implement fairly quickly because it will not affect the PPMs. We will just issue a directive to the department heads, letting them know that moving forward, they need to notify. So that one you will see in short order. Cone of silence. It is on the lobbyist ordinance, which means to implement whatever change this board may interest, we will need to do a public hearing, the typical process for revising an ordinance. So it's going to take a little bit longer, but first we need to understand what you would like us to do. And I'm going to ask two key questions. The first one is the term, how long it will be in place, the cone of silence. Do you want to keep it as we currently have it, meaning to say from proposals received until award, or do you want to open that cone of silence so that it starts at advertisement and ends at award? So that will be my first question.
I think it should stay the same.
Okay, so keep the cone of silence as it is. Then on the length of it. Second question will be, we heard you say you would like us to facilitate one-way communication verbally, not in writing as currently stands. Is that direction that the staff is getting? Should we proceed that way?
Yes.
I think you've heard enough input that that's what most of the board is looking for.
Understood. So, Mike, I believe.
Just want to say with the one-way communication, I do want to, and we're going to have to bring that back, and I believe we're going to have to go to the Ethics Commission as well to talk about that based on where it's located in the code. I do want to look at it from the standpoint of this new process, because that may be problematic under the new process where this board is going to be sitting as basically the final selection committee. So I mean, that's something we can look at and bring back when we bring that ordinance back.
Why don't you bring back the pluses and the minuses to us on that?
Okay.
Attorney Kaufman.
I think that's a great idea, the pluses and the minuses. The only thing that raises concerns is that when you're doing an RFP process, it's competitive. So what they say is what they say. Can you clarify what they said? Yes, but they can't add to it because they're having a discussion with you. And there's a little bit, there may be some other processes that we could discuss, with administration and procurement that we really haven't used to date that might be more amenable to negotiations by the board at that point. So we need to we need to give it some thought about how the whole thing will work. We're not trying to obstruct. We are trying to bring you all the options.
Commissioner Flores, your light is on again?
Yeah, so I sort of been thinking about this, and I'm okay. If the board wants to go that one way, I'm okay with it. But I think we will also get, since we might be making the final decision, we might be able to ask questions directly off of them, live, in person, open to the public. So I would be okay with keeping the way that we have right now in writing, and then we can grill them here when we make that final selection. So I'm okay with going either way, whatever the board would like, I'm okay with, but I see, why go into verbal communication, open ourselves up if we're going to get an opportunity to ask questions here in front of everybody. I'm okay either way.
Thank you. Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you, Dr. Ayala, and your team for this presentation. The concern I have with the communication is just think about the fact that we're dealing with major contracts, and sometimes when people don't win the bid, they protest. It could end up in court. And when we're starting to talk about communication, when you put something in writing, it's a written record. You can't refute what's there. Sometimes when you talk to people, and then you can try this in any conversation you have, by the time it gets back or it gets to the next person or the third person, it's a complete, what has been said, it's been completely misconstrued or turned into something that was not said. So I'm not in favor, and I will continue. I mean, whatever we do, whatever I do will still, be in writing, and I'll operate in a manner to make sure that I'm protecting myself. And I would recommend that the board protects itself. As a point of reference, there's courts, there's depositions, there's people who are upset because they lose the bids on these major contracts, and many times they have a lot at stake, and we as a board and we as individuals have to protect ourselves because we have a lot at stake as well. So I would just make sure that we're cautioned and we look at all options. But as for me, in my practice, I'll only do things in writing. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Flores and Commissioner Powell. I agree with you. I do not want to see my name dragged through the mud for something that I didn't say, but somebody says I did say. The fact that we do have the ability to do written communication, and they have done it in the past. We all, as a board, have received written communication during the cone of silence, I think is the best way to protect us as a board. And as Commissioner Flores also said, we do have the ability to question once people are in front of us out in the open, and then everyone can hear the questions. And I think that's a better way to go forward. Actually, the same way we have is the best way to go forward. Commissioner Weiss, and then Commissioner Baxter, your light is on. Is that for the motion or do you have any more questions?
I have questions and some direction, additional.
Commissioner Weiss, go ahead, and then Commissioner Baxter can wrap up.
I can't agree more than with my colleague, Commissioner Powell. I will not be participating in any, if this moves forward, I will not be doing that. I think I've heard from my attorney. I've been advised I do not want to be involved in that kind of litigation. I do not want to be deposed if I can avoid it. And I think it just opens the door for other issues. So on advice of counsel, which not always take, but Today I will. I will not be participating.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Baxter.
Thank you, Mayor. When you bring back the pro cons of the cone of silence, could you also include Orange County? How many times in, let's say, the last 5 years, the commissioners have actually had to go to some sort of litigation or had some legal problem? Could you bring that information back with you, please? Has it been a problem for them, is what I want to know. And I think that could give us a good history on that. And then also, lastly, when you bring or send us this list that we have 10 days to decide, we had briefly discussed this, but if it could just give a short couple sentences just describing
Not a problem.
what the RFP is in regards to, so it's not just a title, right? Like a list of titles, I think that could be very helpful. Brief description, not anything.
Not a problem.
Major. And then clarification on anything. Do you need Attorney Kaufman? Do we need a motion in a second, or is direction suffice for this?
They're just asking for direction. I think you've gotten
I think
good direction.
you know, so I don't need to elaborate on that. So I think with that,
I think with that, we're done with item 5A1.
Madam Mayor, if I, just real quickly, I just want to clarify on the one-way communication piece. Does the board want us to bring back some, I mean, it seemed like through their conversations, I don't know if the consensus was there on wanting to pursue it. I just want to clarify, does the board want us to bring back a pro and con on the one-way communication piece, or?
well, because there wasn't a consensus, I think that's why we
there?
wanted the pro-con to come back.
I would actually ask each board member what they think, because it sounds like Commissioner Flores likes what's in place to be in place. It sounds like Commissioner Powell likes what's in place to stay in place.
Well, we don't know how it would impact us without further.
Commissioner Weiss? Commissioner Weiss, I'm sorry, what did you say?
I don't need to know anymore. I'm good with the way it is.
All right, let's not spend too much time on this. Commissioner Woodward, Commissioner Sachs.
I think my only question would be bringing back the pros and cons list for us to have a discussion. And however this moves forward, it doesn't mandate that any commissioner have this communication. It's just an option for a commissioner on a rare occasion who would like to. So it's not that anyone here who doesn't want to use this option would not have to.
Correct, we could opt out.
I would like to have the pros and cons, just for someone who would like to have that as an option. I would like to hear all of the pros and cons and make a better informed decision.
Commissioner Sachs?
I wonder, since Isami has done this for 6 years, if she could bring that information back to us so that we really have a professional and informative way to make that decision.
Happy to. We will work with County Attorney and Commissioner on Ethics as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we truly are on to 5A2, and this has to do with the internal auditor. This is to approve the performance review and to authorize to file a copy of the results in the employee file. All right. Any questions or comments?
I would simply ask HR team, do you guys have a presentation? Because I felt like last time we caught you off before you had an opportunity to present.
The presentation is just a review of the summary that you have received.
Do we need the presentation? No. Commissioner Sachs, your light is also on.
I agree. We don't need a presentation.
Okay. So then may I get a motion to approve and authorize?
I think Commissioner Flores has some.
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Sachs and Commissioner Flores, your lights are back on. Go ahead, Commissioner Flores.
Yeah, so Mrs. Zamora, I think overall you had received pretty good grades from I think almost everyone on this board. I think there were some areas that we wanted to get some more feedback and input from you. So overall, I'm happy with the performance. Now, I've only interacted with you for about six months. There are two things that I have a little hesitation with right now, and I want to voice out two things. One was I wish that you would have been here last week. I think we made this decision that we were going to move forward with reviews back in January or February. I can't remember exactly when that decision was made, but this was on the books, and a review is a two-way street. So you have an opportunity to participate. Our attorney had an opportunity to participate last week, and it was just concerning that you weren't here for your review. I don't know that I've ever missed a review personally, so I hope that miscommunication doesn't happen again. And considering that we had a discussion about a possible raise for you, so you came before us, you asked us for a raise, then you missed your performance. See where I'm going with this? It doesn't quite look like the standard of your work. So I just want to make sure that we're good and that this won't happen again, and that we continue to communicate and have better communication and expectations moving forward. But overall, as far as your job performance, I think you're doing a good job. I think there's areas where some of the board, I looked at the notes that they would like you to improve and communicate a little bit better. But from my standpoint, I look forward to continuing to work with you. Thank you.
Sorry. Next up, we will have Commissioner Sachs.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Mr. Zamora, we were here, you weren't. You sent a very polite and professional explanation as to you were not here. That's already been noted by my colleague. What is interesting to me is that one of the issues in your performance evaluation by many of us on the board is that we didn't get to see you enough. It's kind of indicative of not being here for not even knowing that or thinking that you should be here. So it's consistent with what the needs improvement area is in your evaluation. We need to see you more. I have always had a very pleasant meeting with you, and I'd like to see more of you. And so I think that what we need to do moving forward, I accept your reason for not being here. And I appreciate the fact that you sent it right away. But I think that we need to see more of you, and I have a feeling that you will do that for all 7 of us. I don't need any other explanation. I just wanted to make that very apparent, to have almost a continuing conversation with the Board of County Commissioners. Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor and Vice Mayor. Mr. Zamora, I echo some of what they had to say. That I was going back to read what some of my comments were, and more in-person meetings were a request, so that to be noted. And the reason that those in-person meetings are important for me, and I think I've already, in the previous discussion item, I like to talk things through with someone, and your audit reports are lengthy and very detailed. But I don't always understand maybe the nuance of what the findings actually mean. And sometimes when there's a finding, you'll have a list of them, and I don't always know what's a significant finding versus just something that's maybe not exactly what it should be, something that rises to a finding that maybe we need to change a policy. And those, I know that there's a committee that I still don't have a full understanding of should the committee be coming here to report to us. I don't think in my 2.5 years, I've never seen this committee. I've only had conversations with you. And I've asked you to kind of let the committee know. It would be nice if we get maybe a quarterly or even, twice a year, some sort of a report to let us know what is happening, because it's not just that you find findings, it's what comes of that, what improvements are made, or what policy changes, or what efficiencies have been implemented to make it better. Those are things that it's not just the initial audit report, but what comes after. And I know that's a part of the process that you follow, and your department does this, but we just don't always see it. And even if you send reports, we have a lot of reading to do, and some of this stuff, it goes right over my head. I need to kind of sit down and have the conversation so that I have a better understanding. And I would just ask for more of those, because when we have them, they are very productive. And it's probably why I asked for more, because I learn a lot from that process. And I would just appreciate, and anytime, whether or not the committee, however that's supposed to work, I still don't understand, should be taking these up to the board's attention. I would appreciate it if you would. When something bubbles up, and before it gets to a major problem, you let us know as quickly as possible, and then help us through this process, because what you do is helping us run a more efficient county, a more transparent county, having all of our processes run the way that they should. And when they don't, maybe we need to make a change. But we rely on you to let us know that. And I, in particular, I need those in-person meetings so we can have an hour to just discuss this stuff. So I would appreciate more of those. And otherwise, I know the work that you do it's very good work. I just don't always understand it, and I need to be with you in order to do that. So thank you very much.
Commissioner Weiss. Your light is on.
Thank you. First off, Mr. Zamora, just to start off, I did not expect that there was going to be an in-person part of this. And I read that agenda item the same way you did, which was this was ministerial in that, and that may not have been the intent, but that's how I read it the same way, and it is a receive and file, and to get it into the record. So I saw it the same way. As it relates to your performance, I just want to say, having the opportunity to work with you for a few years and to see the transformation you've made in the department, the modernization, the use of new tools and technologies to make your department more efficient and effectively more effective, I think is, that's kudos to you, and I hope you are able to continue to move forward in that regard. I think we all probably, the work you do is very technical in nature in many instances, and clearly you get into the details, and we're not always. We work at probably a higher level of looking at things, and so it is important to have an opportunity to sit down with you to understand the intricacies of what you all are looking at and that sort of thing. I will note that in cases where you have found findings of significance, that there is a follow-up, and that we see that in subsequent reports where you go back and you circle back with the department to see if in fact the recommendations have been implemented, and if not, as to what the plan is, or if there's a response from the department. So, but again, sometimes they are very technical, and it can be difficult. So having an opportunity to have somebody help us translate it into common language would be beneficial. But other than that, I think your department is doing an excellent job, which I think speaks to you, and that we're making our departments more efficient, making sure they're following the policies as laid out. So thank you for your service.
Vice Mayor Baxter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Zamora, I agree and disagree with the fellow commissioners. I do agree. I think if we have an evaluation of any sort, I would never assume my presence wasn't required. I wouldn't say that there's too many items on our agendas that specifically are related to one person. And that agenda item, I guess it was in an A and a B, would be two people, but still to the point of probably would have been here. But I can also understand where the misconception may have come in. And this is a learning process. We just set up first evaluation process for administrators, attorneys, and auditors. So I could see there's obviously going to be some kinks to work through. On another note, I want to say I've really enjoyed working with you. I've enjoyed the process. I've enjoyed the information. I do agree. I'd like to see you more. I would like to know more about your committee that, again, to Commissioner Woodward's point, I wasn't even aware existed for at least a year and a half after taking office. I think that's a problem. And to your defense, there was another auditor here. So I think it would have been his responsibility, and I would think you probably assumed we knew by the time you took his role of their existence. So I don't blame you for that. How do you, let's say that there's a specific department or function of something that we want audited. How do you suggest, or what is the current process of how we bring that to you?
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to speak about the evaluation. And if I could, just before I answer that question, yes, it was clearly a misjudgment of why my attendance was not here. After the fact, it seems appropriate that I should have been here. I clearly was under a different understanding. I take full responsibility. I should have been here regarding anything that has to do with my role. So I appreciate that and those comments. When it comes to input from each commissioner, whether we meet annually for the risk assessment gathering of what all the issues the county faces, or if it's one-on-one during another meeting, I have to make sure to balance what each commissioner feedback is giving me to be sure that it, one, aligns with the rest of the risk in the county, but also to be careful that I'm taking direction from the board as a whole, because that's technically how the direction comes to me, as far as is there something the board would like me to audit. But I will tell you that I take each piece of information and feedback that I get from each commissioner and incorporate that into our risk assessment model. So we balance what feedback we get from the commission, from department heads, from the county administrator, the financial system, previous audits. There's a lot of factors that we take in. So we appreciate that, and we want that input from each commissioner, and we use that as a piece to put together where the highest risks are in the county, if that answers your question.
Yes and no.
Okay.
It's a very high-level answer to a very detailed question. I think the detailed question that you sort of answered would have been, you want to take direction from a board as a whole, but not any individual commissioner?
Correct. That's to be in line with how the county ordinance reads. And so I'm just trying to be careful to still get the input and the suggestions from each member.
You would know better than me. You're the auditor of the policy, how it's written, how it should be followed. I'm not questioning that by any means. Right. I guess my next question would be for either the administrator or the county attorney. Do we currently have a process now that allows us, outside of commissioner comments, the ability to give direction on any department we would like audited, or are we asked, or is there an appropriate time and space to do that? And to follow up to that before you answer it, is if we don't currently have that in place, could we then get every 3-4 months, something that is on an agenda item to say, give us an update. What are you working on? What are you doing as a board as a whole, instead of just individual meetings? Because I don't know that you've ever, and maybe I'm not remembering, but ever sat in front of us other than, hey, we had this, we looked at this, and given us a singular update on a singular project, actually come to us and say, these are all the things we're working on. Is there anything else that you would like to assess. So, is there a current process that I'm unaware of?
Mayor, thank you. Right now, no. There is no way for an individual board member to give direction to the county auditor as to what to audit, other than in the annual, he has you, the board, give approval of his annual audit plan, and you have opportunities then. And I think that what he said is he does take into account all the requests of the commissioners during the year. There's certainly no prohibition on him coming and discussing what he may be auditing at present, except for the fact that some of the information will not be public at that time. And so he can't discuss status of ongoing audits, but he could talk about what's coming up. He works for the board, therefore the board is always able as a board to give him direction as to what they want audited. But it would be very difficult for him to take 7 commissioners and go in 7 different directions at once.
That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, is there a process in place for him to come to the board as a whole on a regular basis outside of 1 meeting a year?
No, but he can certainly do that if that's the board's direction.
I think everyone has said we want to see more of you. And I don't know that we want to burden down a system, but whether it's 2 or 3 times a year, I don't think 1 is appropriate. I'll wait to see what my fellow commissioners, if they have any input on that. But and again, high level. We don't need details. We don't need things. But what are you working on at a very high level? Which departments and, that sort of thing that are currently being evaluated, and which ones have been finalized, and what that timeline looks like, I think is a very high level ask. And if any departments aren't cooperating too, I want to know that as well. Please.
If I may, yes, thank you. What I'm hearing, and thank you for that feedback, that's always helpful for me to hear so that I can do better and meet the expectations of the board. What I'm hearing, it seems to mirror what I do with the audit committee. Because since we meet quarterly, we discuss the audit updates, we discuss risks for the county, and as the advisory committee for internal audit, that's where we have that work discussed. But what I'm hearing from the board is the board wants to hear it as well. So I don't have a problem with that. If I could just offer some feedback on the evaluation and kind of back into that, I want to thank everyone for the input and the feedback I got in this evaluation process. I reviewed the numerical ratings and the comments, and as we talked about, one of the main themes is more communication, and I agree with that. So going forward, I will initiate more one-on-one meetings, and then I will initiate more maybe quarterly meetings at the board level as well. That allows the board to get updates on what we're doing, where we're going, and some risks that we face. So yes, I can certainly going forward take that into consideration. Thank you. Also, just one of the things that was read into the record by Commissioner Flores was to develop evaluations for our audit team. And I just wanted to report that since then, I've engaged with Human Resources and County Administration to develop a process to evaluate the audit staff and make sure that we're accountable and we're growing professionally. So that was a helpful suggestion that's been engaged. I want you to know that we've heard that and we're moving forward with that. And I just want to welcome any further feedback at any time. Reach out to me directly to discuss what can I do to help meet the board's expectations. How do I get better? The only way I'm going to know that was with feedback. So I appreciate the honest feedback. I do take it to heart, and I remain committed to professionalism and transparency, and I want to bring results that support this board and the citizens and the residents of the county.
Thank you. And Commissioner Flores, anything to add?
Yeah, I guess I have a question. Do we provide input into the risk assessment? Does the board? I've only been here 6 months, so I haven't done a full year, so I don't know if we do a risk assessment.
Thank you. Yes, the process is, and we're just about on that time of year where we do our annual risk assessment model, because we need to gather all the data and prepare an annual plan that's effective the first of the fiscal year. So this is the time now, June and July, where we meet, and I will schedule meetings with each commissioner to get your input on what's concerning you. I will schedule meetings with the county administrator, the assistants. Some of the more particular or significant departments is meetings with ISS, because they are very prevalent in a lot of our county operations. Again, we consult the Advantage system so that we understand what the financial documents are. But this is the time of year that we do that. So you'll be seeing invitations so we can come and get your each commissioner's input for that risk assessment model.
Excellent. And I guess my last comment, and I brought this up to you when one of our meetings, that it might be good for you to be located in this building. That way we can run into you more often, we can see you more often, we might have more communication more often, which is sort of what I'm hearing. I understand that your team is elsewhere, and it's hard to manage a team when you're elsewhere, but we only have 3 individuals that report to us. It might be good that we were in the same building. That's just something for us to consider. And by the way, thank you for implementing that. I think it's great to have transparency in government and that our employees know where they stand. If there's room for improvement, if they're doing a great job, I think doing that process, I think it's good for everyone. Thank you.
Agreed, thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
I just wanted to add on to Commissioner Flores' point about you being located in this building. I like that idea. And I think we've recently, as a board, but prior to Commissioner Flores being here, voted to let the property appraiser and the DMV are going to go to another location, which would free up maybe some space for you to be in the building, which would be I'd be very appreciative of that as well if you were here. So thank you. And Mayor, with that, I will make the motion to approve agenda item 5A1, excuse me, 5A2, A and B.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? See that motion carries 7-0. Now, we made a note that we were going to take a break at 1 for lunch. We have a 15-minute presentation on disaster preparedness. I know that Career Source is here. I don't know if there's anything we need a presentation on for Career Source. I'm sort of jumping around here. I apologize. I may want to reorder the agenda quickly so that maybe we can get out of here by 1, and because we come back at 2 with our budget presentation, and what we haven't finished will then be after the budget presentation.
Mayor, I move to reorder the agenda, and we take 5C1, A and B. You want a Career Source first?
Correct.
Now, and then continue with the rest of the agenda after lunch.
And D is probably...
Excuse me, and I will amend that motion to include 5D1.
Perfect.
A and B.
So does anyone need a presentation for Career Source, which is item C1A and B?
I don't need a presentation, but I have some 3 questions.
Okay.
On Career Source.
A short presentation, just because it's an interesting.
Okay, then we're going to run over
short.
past 1 o'clock. So if anybody had a meeting at 1 o'clock, we're going to run a little bit over.
She can go fast.
This will be really quick, and it's only 5 slides. This one's only like 5 slides.
Hi there.
This one. So,
Good afternoon, and thank you so much, Mayor, Commissioners, Mr. Bonner. I'd like to thank this opportunity for me to speak today.
I don't think your mic is on, so could you turn your mic on and pull it towards you? There you go.
There it is. So thank you for this opportunity to let me speak today on internpalmbeach.com, which is an online internship and apprenticeship portal that is part of an initiative which we are working with the Business Development Board, the county, and Career Source to really broaden talent recruitment and retention within Palm Beach County. And it's in a partnership with so many other, it will be, with so many other businesses to retain our best asset, and that is our young youth. and our educated youth. Our talent is our largest export in Palm Beach County. Each year, high school and college students will move out for other opportunities from our county. So this portal will tackle 3 agenda items. It'll be, how do we keep our educated talent local? How do we enhance workforce development? And how do we improve our long-term economic competitiveness? To answer that question, it's access. Access to internships, apprenticeship programs, and career opportunities that are offered locally. This portal will directly align workforce with industry and economic development priorities for the county. It'll strengthen youth engagement locally and increase retention of our educated youth. It will bridge disconnected youth with other opportunities and help our local businesses, and provide increased access to underserved communities, ensuring that all students in every zip code have a work opportunity. And it'll also help us recruit candidates from outside our county that have experiences in education that we need within our community. So this tool is called internpalmbeach.com. It is a website that's already got its branding, internship.com, and emails, addresses, everything is set up. This is actually the look of it right now. Start your bright future in the sunshine. This is the picture of the website. And right now you'll see an apprenticeship of welding on the back, but that picture will constantly change to provide images of all the opportunities in our county. And at the top, you will see submit your job. That is for businesses to submit their internship opportunities. We will also curate those internships as well. The toolkit is for youth and businesses. The toolkit will include how to form your young resume, how to interview for internships, how to network while you're on your apprenticeship program, and etiquette in the workplace. And for businesses, how do you start an internship program, and how do you run it, as well as the job order form to submit for us. And then a contact button, so students can call us, talk to a career consultant, and find out what is best in our local community. So we're asking for support and partnership in this internpalmbeach.com website for fundraising and seeding, targeted marketing, and promotion for your internships as well. So counties and municipalities all have internships and apprenticeships, and we'd like to also post them within our website. This partnership will allow us to highlight Palm Beach talent and shows that we grow with our talent. We have the right ingredients in Palm Beach County. We have great schools, we have ambitious students, and we have a climate that is collaborative in nature. And so marrying industry with workforce and education, I think, is a primary opportunity for integrating internships and apprenticeships into one location for our community and for our youth. So thank you for your very quick attention on this topic.
Thank you. Commissioner Woodward.
I'll take any questions if you have any.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment, thank you for this. It's very important. One of the first conversations we had when I got to be on your board was the lack of young people entering the workforce, and how do we help bridge that gap. So thank you so much for the work that went into this. I look forward to it going live in July, I believe is what I understood.
We're starting to load internships shortly.
Okay. Well, with that, I would like to make the motion to approve. I know there's some other lights on, but I'd like to make this motion. He's on the board too, so.
That's right.
Do you have any comments, Commissioner Weiss?
First off, I think this is a great idea and great, thank you for what you're doing. My one question though, when I was looking at this, did you guys think about using an intern to create the website?
That's a good question. No, I just went full force ahead and contacted a company to develop it. And then we will be hiring interns in our IT department to help curate it.
Well, I will tell you that I think you probably could hire interns to actually build the website and the tools that are available to them today. You might give them that opportunity for them to get that on their resume as something that they've been able to do. And I don't think it actually would take any longer. And I'm looking right past you because I have a great intern in my office, Freddie Verdugo. He is a Lake Worth High School student, straight A's, does a phenomenal job in our office. So I know there's really great, talented, both high school and college students right here in Palm Beach County, and it would be great to give them an opportunity.
Will do.
Thank you. Commissioner Sachs.
Thank you. And I want to thank you, Isatoya. You and I have worked together for many years on this issue, and I know that Commissioner Powell is also you know, we know in the legislature, my question is this, I saw the cost. You're asking $20,000 from us. How much do you get from other sources?
So we'll be going out for other sources. The BDB has contributed as well, and Career Source is doing this in kind.
So the state, through Career Source, has given you funding?
No,
Because
this
$20,000 is not going to open any
I know.
doors.
We're allocating our own funding towards this, but also we'll be asking in the future for funding from other sources.
Okay, good, because I know.
This is a good start, though.
I'm sorry.
This will be a good start, though. Thank you.
Are you is this the first county for Career Source to start this portal?
So some of the other counties have other opportunities on their own portals, but not directly for internships or apprenticeships.
So we're the first?
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent. Great job. I agree with my colleagues. Let's get our interns in there to develop the web, to get in ChatGPT, get this thing moving. Also for our, he just told me now ChatGPT wants to be part of this. But I'm also interested in, with our labor unions, do you work with our labor unions for interns? Or is this only for county administration?
This is for all internships and apprenticeships, and so a lot of the labor
Excellent.
unions incorporate apprenticeships into their workforce.
Excellent. So you'll be working with
yes, ma'am,
with our unions as well. Excellent. I look forward to it, and you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Flores.
Hi there.
Hi.
We have three classmates of Leadership Class 2020 in the building right now, so extremely proud of that. And I'm very proud of this initiative, and I'm happy that we are sounds like we are supporting it. And in our office right now, we currently have 2 interns. We're actually going to be bringing in a high school intern later this summer. But I think it is important to have career exploration for different for our youth, so that they are able to see what it looks like to run government, to work at a school, to do different things. Because I remember when I was in college, I ended up wanting to be an architect, and then I realized that was not my path. But it was through an internship that I ended up finding that out. So I think it's great for young minds to be exposed. So I want to say thank you for putting this together, and our team for making sure that our young people get exposure to different careers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Remind me, did we have a motion in a second? Yes. We did.
We have a motion, but no second. We have a motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion carries 7-0. We were trying to get through this before 1 o'clock. If the board is okay with it, we'll just continue. Maybe we'll see where we get, because otherwise we're going to be doing business after our budget meeting. So we'll just take a little bit of a shorter lunch. If someone needs to leave early, so be it. We did reorder to take item 5D1, A and B, which is the University of Florida. Do we need a presentation? Someone like to make a
Mayor,
motion?
I'd like to make a motion to move item 5D1, A and B.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? See that motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much. Okay, public safety. Greg, how do you want to handle your comments? How did you want to handle your comments? Because Don's been sitting here all day. Either we do it now or we do it after the budget.
Slide down one. Can you slide down one more? Here. Yeah. Perfect.
Okay, we're going to take one more item, but you can just stay there. I know that Commissioner Weiss has board direction that he has Don Chester here for, and I don't want to keep Don here the rest of the day. So if it would be okay with the board, I'd like to move that item up for the moment. I agree. Okay.
All right.
Commissioner Weiss?
Thank you very much, Mayor. So you all received an email from my office. I am requesting at our July 8th meeting on the agenda that we include the directed payment program for our authorization for our hospitals.
Does anyone have any questions? We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion carries 7-0. Have a nice day. Okay, thank you. Now, Commissioner Powell, your light is on?
Yes, Madam Mayor. With regard to that motion and second we just passed, we will have an opportunity here, discussion with regard to that particular item prior to being brought to us, or is that during the time it will be brought to us?
I know that Don has been making the rounds, but he's more, have you been able to meet with Commissioner Powell yet?
Yes, we did yesterday, but we would just like to make our presentation on, at your next meeting.
July 8th.
Because that's when it has to be approved.
Okay.
But all the hospitals will be, not just.
Yes.
We understand your other issue, and we'll address that as best we can at that time.
Does that answer your question?
Thank you. For clarification, I also had a conversation with staff and Assistant Administrator Duran, and I wanted to make sure that I could hear from both at the same time so I could understand exactly what the issue is. I heard from Mr. Chester yesterday, and I heard from Assistant Administrator Duran. So I just want to see how we can bring those conversations together to get a better understanding and see how we can negotiate.
And that would be the presentation on the 8th.
Thank you.
I know we had a motion in a second, so all in favor, all opposed. See that motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Okay.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Administrator Von Laren, and members of the board. Again, Stephanie Shanahan for the record, Director of Public Safety. Today, we're going to provide a brief but important update on our disaster preparedness efforts for this storm season. With me today is Mary Blakeney, Director of Emergency Management, along with Sherry McCorkle, External Affairs Specialist from the South Florida Water Management District, and Tommy Stroud, Executive Director of Lake Worth Drainage District, as well as David Bahar, our Assistant County Attorney. And I'm going to turn it over to Mary Blakeney to begin the presentation. Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Administrator Von Laren. I thank you for allowing us to present to you today, and we hope you don't have to dig into your disaster snacks to eat before 2 o'clock. But it's really important today that we present to you. We're going to give you a little bit of an emergency management overview, talk about our core hazards, just do a really brief recap on the 2004 hurricane season. Looking ahead to 2025, we're going to also talk about our drainage systems, the preparedness cycle, and where you can fit in. Obviously, we've talked about this before, our vision. We really work as a team here in emergency management. Our vision is to be a world-class emergency management agency responding to any disaster that would impact our community. And as you know, our disasters are more than just hurricanes. We're more than just the hurricane people. We have several core hazards that have been identified throughout Palm Beach County, and we spend all year long addressing those hazards, whether it be floods, fires, tornadoes, hurricanes, hazardous material spills. We work with our partner agencies to ensure that we have the structure in place to meet each of those hazards. And we do that with the support of our team. Our team consists of all the county departments, nonprofit organizations, state and federal partners, and local community partners. And our executive policy group is a major component within that. Our executive policy group sets the policy direction for our incident commander, and our incident commander leads our team. Currently, that incident commander is Mr. Todd Von Laren, if anything happens in the near future. So we don't look to having that happen, but it is a teamwork here within the county when it comes to disasters. So where are we at today? We're 10 days into the 2025 hurricane season. So last year we had an above average predicted storm season. Palm Beach County only had to activate one time, and that was as the approach of Hurricane Milton. Although we weren't directly impacted by Hurricane Milton, as we saw, we had tornadic activity within our county that impacted our residents. So this year, NOAA is predicting another above average year with 13 to 19 named storms, 6 to 10 hurricanes, and 3 to 5 intense hurricanes. But we know Hurricanes aren't getting weaker, and they're not getting less frequent. As you'll see here, 25 hurricanes have made landfall in the U.S. since 2017, and 11 of those storms were major hurricanes, Category 3 or greater storms. So that's a lot of storms making impact to the U.S. since 2017. And as you will see here, all but one of those catastrophic 150 mile per hour or greater storms were a tropical storm or less within 50 hours of making landfall. So we're seeing rapid intensification, not a lot of time to prepare for these catastrophic storms. And as you know, although it would make landfall within 50 hours, a majority of the effects of those storms and the impacts of those can be felt 12 hours even before that. So preparedness is so important. But regardless of this forecast, it just takes one storm to impact us. So that's why it's really important that preparedness cannot wait. Here you're going to see Palm Beach County. We've been very lucky. We've been very fortunate, as you can see here. This is the storms that have impacted the area since 2000, from 2010 to 2024. Over this time frame, you can tell Palm Beach County has been very lucky not to have that direct impact. But our residents need to know their evacuation zone. They need to understand if they live in an evacuation area, and the time to learn that is now. So how do we evacuate people? Evacuation is based on the risk associated with that storm. This is true of all emergency management agencies around the state, except for people living in manufactured homes and mobile homes. We evacuate because of storm surge. So it's really important that individuals that could be impacted by storm surge understand that risk that's facing them. And the storm surge is the rising of coastal floodwaters that could impact our community. Although we're a different makeup than the West Coast, where we've seen catastrophic storm surge in recent years that have come in from the Gulf, producing upwards of 22 foot of storm surge. Palm Beach County may not experience that great of storm surge. We could experience 6 to 9 feet of storm surge, but what's different to our coast is wave action. And that's not what was really experienced on the west coast of Florida. They didn't have the large wave action. So you add high rising storm surge and wave action, we could see storm surge and flood impacts miles in from the coast. And one of the outcomes of Hurricane Ian, after it made landfall in Lee County, the individuals that survived, that did not evacuate the coastal area, were asked, why didn't you evacuate? And the response was, a lot of them didn't realize the water would leave the sand. Water will leave the stand, and that's storm surge. It'll come inland several miles. And in Lee County, it went inland 6 miles. So people need to understand, if they're in an evacuation zone, they need to understand what an evacuation zone is. Late last year, the National Hurricane Center produced a new experimental graphic. And you'll see here on the screen, it will be experimental again this year, but what the Hurricane Center has done is they've taken the focus off of the cone, which is really important for us. The cone only predicts where the center of the storm will make landfall. This new experimental graphic displays all of the hazards that are around that cone when a storm is approaching. So it's really important for individuals not to focus on the cone, but to focus on the hazards that can impact you where you're at. And we're excited that that experimental graphic will be in place, because when a storm is approaching the coast, if it does a small little wiggle, like we saw with Hurricane Dorian, 25-mile wiggle could mean hundreds of miles of impact when it reaches landfall. So wiggles really matter, and it's really important for individuals to stay vigilant all year long when a storm is approaching our community. A little 20-mile shift can make a big difference to where a storm is going to make landfall. And it's so important for our residents to understand the hazards within a storm. It's not all just about the Saffir-Simpson wind scale. That just looks at the hurricane force winds, but there's flooding, there's storm surge, there's tornadic activity. And as we saw in Palm Beach County, In 2022, with the landfall of Hurricane Ian, and then again last year in 2024 with the landfall of Hurricane Milton, Palm Beach County can be impacted by a West Coast storm. And we saw that in both those cases with tornadoes that made great impacts within Palm Beach County. But rainfall flooding is the number one cause, whether it's rainfall flooding, inland flooding, storm surge flooding, that's the number one cause of individuals and fatalities, individuals dying of fatalities or having fatalities during hurricanes. So we've invited today, I want to turn it over to both Tommy Stroud from Lake Worth Drainage District and Sherry McCorkle from South Florida Water Management to explain a little bit about our drainage systems here.
All right, I'm going to say, we were told this was going to be a 15-minute presentation. That was 15 minutes already.
We're going to fly through this very fast.
Very quickly. Thank you very much.
Hold on one second. Commissioner Woodward.
Could I ask, would it be too much trouble to have you come back after? Because I think this is important. I don't want you to fly through, but then.
We have budget at 2 o'clock.
I know we have, but I mean, you would be coming back after budget.
Not a problem here.
It's important.
Not
I
a
do
problem
want to
for
hear
any of
it,
us.
but I know that a couple of us, we have stuff that we have planned to be doing in this time, and I don't want you just to rush through it because it is important. Would it be too much to ask you to come back after budget?
And Mayor, we may be able to pick this up. I know we've said budget is at 2, but we might have a little bit of flexibility if we want to just conclude this presentation at 2 o'clock before we go right into budget, if that's okay.
It's not like matters by the public. We don't have to do budget at 2. Is that correct?
It's
Madam
been noticed for
Attorney?
2, but if people are in the room at 2, that's fine. I mean, we just never want to go earlier. So if we want to, and I apologize, I know you've been here all morning, but this is what happens with board meetings. If it would be okay with the board to pick up this presentation at 2 o'clock, because I know we did give a hard stop for 1 o'clock for lunch. I apologize. Would that be okay with the board?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
And you guys?
So, Tommy, when we come back, you'll be up first. And we'll see you at 2. Thank you.
I do want, this is good stuff.
It is. It is.